including other relevant stakeholders, and to further assess progress on the ground, challenges, and work out appropriate responses. The visit will further reinforce government to uphold law and order and stop any unlawful activity.
Former ANC Treasurer General Matthews Phosa says that the party was buried at the 2007 Polokwane conference. Phosa made the comments today during his interview with the SABC News to discuss his political memoir, Witness to Power. The 2007 ANC conference in Polokwane saw former President Jacob Zuma succeed President Thabo Mbeki, who was running to be party leader for a third time. Phosa says that the contest between Mbeki and Zuma at that conference resulted in a permanent split of the party.
And you knew that the contest between Zuma and Thabo will create a permanent split in the party. It was very clear. It was almost equal blocks contesting. You will not tell easily which one is going to win. And that is the recipe for a split, a big split in the party, which never existed between the two individuals. And indeed, that split, it slaughtered the ANC and we buried it there. It never recovered from that split.
Former NEC member at the South African Football Association, Lefure Lerefulo, says the association's board should be placed under administration. This follows the arrest of SAFA President Denny Jordan and two co-accused yesterday. Jordan, SAFA CFO Ronnie Gluyo, and businessman Trevor Neethling face charges of fraud and theft amounting to 1.3 million rand. The three appeared at the Specialized Commercial Crimes Court sitting in Palmbridge, east of Johannesburg. They were granted 20,000 rand bail each. Lerefulo says based on the recent allegations, it's clear that the organization's National Executive Committee is dysfunctional.
If internally such serious issues are raised, we would expect that SAFA NEC deals with it and tells the country something. But at the end of the day, we have not heard anything from the accounting body SAFA NEC, to the extent that the NPA then looked at these things and said there's a case to answer. 2018, these matters were raised. Beyond that, there was a raid at SAFA, but we have not heard the SAFA NEC. Have you done an investigation? Has the ethics committee looked at this? Is there a report? So that we can talk to issues that come from professional bodies meant to do that. That has not happened. That's the dysfunction.
And news further filled the main island of the Philippines is under the highest level of weather alert as Super Typhoon Usagi makes landfall. It's forced hundreds of thousands of people to leave their homes ahead of expected flooding and landslides. The BBC's Celia Hatton has the details.
The authorities say it's expected to bring 3-meter-high coastal waves and winds that could inflict strong damage on buildings that are normally considered to be a low risk. This is the 5th devastating storm to hit the archipelago in 3 weeks, so floodwaters are already high and emergency resources are running low. This year's typhoon system has been especially deadly. 159 people have been killed in storms since September. Officials worry that number will rise by the end of the week.
Recapping the top story, the Limpopo Health Department says 39 learners from Tumeri Primary School at Ndambi Village in Giyani have been taken to hospital due to a suspected foodborne illness. I am Ondalambana for SFM News. Headlines at 3:30.
Coming up in news sports this hour, Springboks make 12 changes to their side facing England. Ngidi ruled out of Sri Lanka and Pakistan in bout tours, and head of F1 owner to leave role at key time for sport. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the toothpaste so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, 3 things I want to touch on today that should move the National Pulse. One, I'll be chatting pretty shortly, like imminently, to a communications expert about the minister in the presidency's conversation around the miners. We will talk about it in terms of what can a minister say and not say, or what should they say. We'll talk about that. We'll certainly talk about Julius Malema's pronouncements regarding himself and the EFF and the MK party, as well as Jacob Zuma. And try and analyse that and make sense of where the EFF and himself, Julius Malema's mind is. And then there's a book called Great Johannesburg. I'm being serious, okay? Great Johannesburg. What happened? How to Save an African Economic Giant. Written by Nicholas Bowers, a journalist. We're going to talk to him about that book and the challenge really for all of us, because whether you live in Johannesburg or you live outside of Johannesburg, you must understand this. If we say the USA catches a cold, sneezes rather, then the whole world catches a cold, the same could well apply to South Africa. What happens in Johannesburg does and must impact, as it stands, on the entire psyche of the nation. So we have to be concerned when there's talk about Johannesburg trying to fix itself up, because there are so many problems in what is called that great city, Great Johannesburg, or the Golden City. This is the National Pulse. My name is Ashraf Garda. Thank you for making time to listen into the show, and not just listen, to engage. And you can engage on different platforms. You know that. You can tweet out hashtag the National Pulse, tag SAFM Radio, do tag me, Ashraf Garda, do comment on Facebook as well, and again you can tag us there too, and then also, as always, tell us where you are, where you're listening from. If you want to send a picture, that's great too. And if you want to raise, yesterday I spoke about this, and I will just touch on this very quickly, focusing on the issue of really good service. Come on, if somebody's offering you truly impressive service, how about you giving them a shout out? Let's just do that. And really the plan of that is just to effectively uplift our expectations as a people in terms of how we serve each other. So all of that to come. First things first, let's get to an issue that we touched on yesterday and I think has been spoken about for many hours beyond that. We've had the minister in the office of the presidency, Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, speaking about many things yesterday, but specifically, she spoke about the miners, underground miners, that is, who were stuck underground, trapped in the mines, and apparently illegal miners. I say apparently because they have to be confirmed as illegal in a court of law. And she said lots of things about them. So we thought, let's talk about what she said and how does that work from a communication strategy point of view. So with me, we have KG Mokwale, who's a communication and political strategist. KG, good chatting to you once again. Hi.
Ashraf, how are you?
Thank you, and thanks for your tweet. I've certainly seen it. Much appreciated. So I'm going to encourage the whole country to follow you as well now, right? I mean, that's what...
I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble.
Whoa,
look, I mean, it's all about... I was actually saying already with my friends yesterday that, you're not speaking for yourself. There's an institution or organization called South Africa. And that South Africa, it's a constitutional democracy. It's governed by laws, and the supreme law of the country is the Constitution.
Well, I mean, but that's the essence of it, that you're not speaking for yourself. So I'll tell you what I'll do is, let me do this. Let's play the clip, right, where the minister spoke for the country, for government, and this is what she said.
We're not sending help to criminals. We're going to smoke them out. They will come out. We're not sending help to criminals. Criminals are not to be helped. Criminals are to be persecuted. We didn't send them there. And they didn't go down there for the good benefit or good intentions for the Republic. So we can't help them. Those who want to help them, they must go and take the food down there. They will come out. We'll arrest them.
So, interesting, it's such a short clip, but there's so many things that were said in that clip. So if I can ask you firstly, maybe, can you help me analyze the clip? I mean, so the first part she spoke about, they will smoke them out, right?
Yeah, I mean that's where the biggest problem also is. I mean, we smoking them out. Who are you? Are you really speaking for the government? Is this the position of the government? Are you persecuting people in this country, or are we prosecuting them? We are a constitutional democracy, like I said. You can't be. You know, the problem, Ashraf, is that when a government is failing to lead, it will resort to populism. You know, you and I agree that we've got problems in this country, including illegal foreigners. But if we had systems that were literally dealing with the leaking borders, we would not be here. But our government is always reactionary, and that's why you hear this kind of statements: smoking people out, persecuting them instead of prosecuting them if they are indeed criminals. Because we still have to find out that who are these people who are actually in this who are busy doing illegal mining. But you cannot be speaking like you are on the podium of a political rally in an ANC meeting when you're actually speaking on behalf of the state.
So let's be clear. She maybe said 3 or 4 things, right? If you can help us analyze which other 3 or 4 things that she said that you have a problem with. Smoking out is one of them. What else?
Persecuting instead of prosecuting.
Okay. I understand that part. I mean, and you're saying that we can't persecute. Prosecute is an act of law. That's completely different, right? That has to be found.
Actually, I can expand even further. You are almost like you are inciting violence against those minors. Whether you agree with her when she says they are criminals, I don't know if they are, because they haven't been prosecuted. But what do you actually, when you say we will smoke out, you've already started there. Then they should be persecuted maybe by who? The locals very close to where the mine is. These are the things. These are the kind of statements that are very dangerous.
Okay.
More especially in this continent. You cannot be saying things conclusively as if you know who are those people in there.
Okay. So she also used the word illegal miners, and you're saying she can't even use the word illegal. She cannot do that.
No, because the mine dams is actually closed. I can agree that they're illegal because the mine dam it's not operational.
Okay.
So you can only suspect that people that are mining, they are mining illegally. But whether they're South African or not, we would not know.
Okay. Is there anything else that she said just yesterday that you have a problem with?
You know, the biggest thing that covers everything that I really wanted to comment about, it's the fact that after moving from smoking people, she then confirmed this and affirmed herself by literally saying they'll be persecuted. Or, you know, for me, that's where the biggest problem is, because Ashraf, she's a leader. She should not be encouraging any kind of violence against anyone in this country.
And did she come across, and maybe you can help me with the right wording, did she come across suggesting that because they're illegal miners, that we can't help them to even recover them? Whatever happens down under happens down under, which effectively either condemns them to a death because, as you said, if somebody else wants to help, or they can go down. Does that come across, therefore, that although they are technically illegal, that we are in a constitutional democracy, we're almost callous as a nation? You can't do that sort of thing. Did that come across for you?
Yeah, I'll go back to that statement where it's not only about them. Maybe her thinking that they're illegal, but we resort to populism. You know, tough talk that means nothing. You come to the press conference and have all this tough talk, but because you don't have systems that are dealing with the problems that we are having. Like I've already said, if we didn't have porous borders, we would not be talking about potential of illegal miners in our closed old mines. But we can't be reacting all the time when we should be providing leadership and actually have systems that are dealing with our problems. And therefore, when we communicate from a government perspective, we should always remember what does this government stand for. You might not like a constitutional democracy and say it's giving people who are not from here some sort of rights, but it's the system that this country is actually led through. So unless if maybe, MK Party or EFF, because they've already expressed their need to change the constitution, win the elections. Then therefore, even at that time, I might not like the system that they'll be coming up with, but I'll have to respect that my country is left in a different system. Currently, we are nothing but a constitutional democracy, and people have rights, whether they're illegal or legal in this country.
Okay,
and we have to then get the government leaders literally not only teaching us how we should be handling the situation, but providing leadership.
Okay, so you've told me what she should not have said. What do you think she should have said?
What she should have actually said right now is to say that, South Africa has got now an opportunity, the South African government an opportunity to really deal with these issues once and for all. Therefore, we will have the law enforcement or the law departments, the police, and anyone else who's actually involved, literally making sure that we investigate, we arrest, make arrests, we investigate, and deal with this matter once and for all. Just on a related matter, I've been asking myself if illegal miners are making us lose 70 billion a year, why are we not formalizing this illegal mine dams and actually hire South Africans, Ashraf? That's where I've got a problem with politicians. They only act or come and talk tough at the end, when just for them to actually sound like they're doing something. I'm just saying that provide leadership from the beginning and stop being reactionary, because that literally at the end you present yourself as nothing but a populist who's desperate to be relevant.
So you're saying also the fact that, it could be an unused mine that's now being used illegally, but if they are making some money out of it, then there's a potential revenue stream for them, which reduces unemployment, but also for the state, so they earn some taxes on it, right?
Absolutely. We've got new technology, and we no longer need your beach shafts that actually can change the structure of the ground. You've got this mobile modular plants that you can actually work with. Why are we not formalizing this old mine dams to hire South Africans and in the local areas where these mines are, and actually create a new economy?
And here's the last thing with regard to their safety. And I know many people throughout SFM last night, this morning, have been saying, hey, they're illegally there. They've been there for months. Leave them to die. It's not our problem. How can we go and support and aid someone who's there, who's committed an illegal act in the first place? Now, here's the thought. You've already made the point out about this being a constitutional democracy. I can't help but think about, let's call them the boat people, the many people from the African continent, mainly from West Africa, who somehow navigate through Niger and Libya and maybe parts of Tunisia and cross the Mediterranean to Europe. And many of them, as you know, get into these overpopulated boats and they sink, right? And it's left, if not on the African side, it's left to the European side to come out and rescue them. So technically, they're breaking the law. They should not have been on the sea in the first place. They're illegally there, right? But what happens if these, and let's call them, whether they probably Italians, whether they just leave them alone and say, well, let the boat sink now. It's not our problem because they should not have been in the boat in the first place. I mean, is that a similar example to say you can never do that no matter what?
Unfortunately, when they die, you have a responsibility as a government, because remember, environmentally, you will affect your land. You will have to work to get those bodies out of there, whether you like it or not. So what needs to happen is we have the capability really to have people going down there, if indeed we suspect that those people are criminals, and actually arrest them. Are you saying that if you come to my house and I happen to have some sort of a safety room and I've committed crimes, or you suspect that I've been committing crime, are you going to leave me in my house?
Okay, interesting thoughts that's come through from there. Just the last thing, and you got like 30 seconds to answer this one. How does the government and the minister in this case, how do you save what was said? How do they come back from this?
President must come out and actually say that the views did not represent the views of this country. And then actually from there provide leadership. It's not for the first time that minister and the president actually always spoke with a big shoe in her mouth. She's done it before. It's not for the first time.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Not for the first time. Thank you for your time. Not for the first time, KG Mkhwale. I appreciate your time as a communication and political strategist in communication. So lots to consider. What's your opinion? You tell me, what for you moved the national pulse? And perhaps you may want to comment on the conversation we just had. 086 000 2032, or you can WhatsApp us, text or voice notes now.
Only the team that plays the best cricket on the day will enjoy the last laugh. South Africa and India are both hungry to wrap the T20 International Series on the highest possible note. What a summer without cricket! Do not miss out on the fourth and final T20 International battle between South Africa and India on Friday, 15 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000 with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
For years, Outsurance has been saying they'll save you money on your car insurance, or you can ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand cash if they don't. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
I was not happy with what I was paying. I heard about the 500 Rand from Outsurance, but they give me lesser amount for my car. I'm paying 523 Rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim-free for 3 years or more, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Ryan, I certainly want to get your opinions regarding that fascinating conversation with KG Mokhwale. Give it to me. I mean, do you think he's got a point regarding the minister? And in fact, he's now making the point that the president has to actually come out and effectively apologize. Is that such a big deal? Or would you let it pass? Or do you concur with many others to say she was 100% spot on? Text me, WhatsApp 0614 104 107. You can also post your comments on our social media platforms. Right. Let's get to the Global Watch feature now. This has been a big issue for the last few weeks, right? The political crisis in Mozambique. We've spoken to different stakeholders. Today it's the turn of the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. Now, they undertook a solidarity visit to that country. So, what did they discover? Reverend Mzwandile Molo is the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. Right, Reverend Molo, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and thank you to your listeners.
Thank you. Right, what did you uncover?
The visit, as we heard it, was a visit of solidarity, as you indicated, Ashraf, to fellow Christian church leaders and to some of the leaders that we could find in Mozambique. What we found are the following. After the preliminary announcement of the results, the tension obviously rose in the country, and many of the people who live with a fundamental mistrust of the operations of the electoral commissions and the Constitutional Assembly are very concerned by the preliminary results, and they are wondering if what is going to come out is one that reflects the will of the people of Mozambique. Secondly, the church leaders have also indicated the fundamental truth that this is just a lighting of a fundamental problem. In Mozambique, people are struggling around issues of high cost of living, poverty, exclusion, and fundamental problems around economic activities. That has left people hopeless and very angry. And the church leaders have then decided that they are going to work hard to bring all these political parties together. They've spoken to most of them. They are waiting for one or two of them to come back to them so that they can sit around and say to them, Mozambique is bigger than any political party, and they want Mozambican political leaders, firstly, to work together to quell down the tension so that people do not destroy property. Secondly, commit themselves to work together so that the election results does not tear the country apart. Thirdly, commit themselves in a bigger process where they can work together to almost find Mozambicans together to craft what the future of Mozambique can look like, because they want civil society and other sectors of society to work with the political leaders in finding that which is what is needed to take Mozambique to a better future. And we have committed to work with them in that. And they've also asked us to echo our call to our own country leaders, especially SADC, so that SADC plays its part in exerting its own influence to the political parties to come together to resolve their impasse and they work together to build a better Mozambique.
Okay, so I mean, you've effectively given us your wish list, right? How realistic is that wish list from being achieved?
The church leaders in Mozambique are highly confident that they're able to reach the political parties of Mozambique. As I indicated, Ashraf, they've already spoken to some of them. There's one or two that is extending. All of them have indicated a willingness to speak. What they were dealing with was the timing of the meeting and also the fundamental issues in those conversations that they will have to deal with. So it is not merely a wish list. It is work that is being done to pull these parties together. They are also committed as church leaders to engage civil society, especially those who are young people in Maputo especially, because we left Maputo yesterday with a call that was made of what they call a level 4 protest, which started yesterday, which will end if things go as they planned tomorrow. But they are committed to work with young people to make sure that in the protestation there is no destruction of property, there's no loss of lives. They've also committed to talk to the police so that the police do not brutalize the community, because there's a concern also that says the police sometimes are heavy-handed in dealing with the protesters. Those work is continuing as well. And they've committed with Interfaith for a Moment to call the nation that brings the nation together so that Mozambicans remember they're all Mozambicans, whatever political parties they belong to.
Now, I suppose it's very easy from an opposition point of view to say we'll work together to try and thresh out a resolution or the solution, right? Do you get any sense that the ruling party will do the same thing, keeping in mind many are concerned about the build-up to the election? There were assassinations as well. There's also been concerns that post the election, many believe it was rigged and the opposition should have won. And then post the actual election and the protests, there's been people who've been killed and the protests have been thwarted in many ways. So why do you think, therefore, that the ruling party, in this case Frelimo, will actually bend over and be supportive of on the conversation for national unity?
What the church leaders have indicated to us, Ashraf, is that they have been in touch with all political parties, including Frelimo, whom they've appealed to say to everybody, let us find time to stay together and come together and have a meeting. Our understanding is that Frelimo is open to those conversations. We had an occasion ourselves in our visit to speak to the Deputy Minister of Justice there in Mozambique. We're unfortunate that we could not get the opposition political party to a meeting. But we shared with them the concern that we have from our church leaders. And they indicated to us that President Nyusi and the new candidate of Frelimo is open to conversation. What they were seeking to do, it is to find a proper way to structure the conversation so that they know what is being spoken about. The part of the complication, Ashraf, is that according to the law of the country, the results will be certified by the constitutional, what you call the Constitutional Assembly. That is the highest law. And some of Frelimo were saying that they cannot meet up until that is done. But many are saying this is beyond the issue of who has won or who has lost. It is about building a better process for Mozambique. And therefore, they have shown a willingness to speak. And we have heard for some of them ourselves that they're open to the talking. The question really was what will be the modalities and what will be the substantive issue to be spoken about. And the church leaders are saying part of that agenda must be a commitment to a new path for Mozambique.
Okay.
So it cannot be simply about who's won, who's lost.
Well, let's leave it at that. I think that's the big part there, the absolute commitment to wanting to build and rebuild that country. Everything else can fall into place if the first part, the purpose, the why, falls into place in the first place. Appreciate your time, Reverend Mzwandile Molo, the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. So much to reflect on that. What's happening in Mozambique cannot be wished away. No ways can that be done. Let's get the news headlines now. Here's on Dela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. In your news headlines, the number of learners taken to hospital due to a suspected foodborne illness from Dzumeri Primary School in Giyani has risen to 50. The Department of Health in the Northwest says one suspected illegal mine worker has been admitted at the Klerksdorp Tsapong Hospital. The miner was retrieved together with 4 others yesterday and is in police custody. Former ANC Treasurer General Matthew Phosa says that the party was buried at the 2007 Bulugwana Conference. Phosa made the comments today during his interview with SABC News to discuss his political memoir, Witness to Power. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, some Ray of Air bus feeder services throughout Soweto remain disrupted, so please do check before travel. Soweto Highway eastbound is slow moving towards Mookie Street and Stormfall Road is slow moving through Silverton Dale. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle reported near Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. The M7 eastbound has a truck crash reported near Recreation Road. The N2 northbound in Amanzimtoti queuing on Twinny Hill. The N3 eastbound queuing towards Kato Ridge and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Mpumalanga, on the N4 in Komatipoort at Limpopo border post, you're asked to check before travel to confirm border operations due to unrest on the Mozambique side. In Cape Town, sand on the tracks at Simonstown, so the train shuttle service between Fishhook and Simonstown has temporarily been suspended. The M3 southbound is queuing towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit, and the N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, rugby. The South African cricket team were in action last night. The rugby team will be in action this weekend.
Absolutely, and Volker Low will play his first test match since 2021 against England in London on Saturday in a Springbok starting 15, which shows 12 changes to the team which defeated Scotland 32-15 last weekend. Only Eben Itzebeth, Oxen Chair and Bongim Bonambi retained their starting jerseys from Sunday's test in a 23, which includes a whole new backline and 8 personnel changes in total as Bok coach Rassie Erasmus took steps to negotiate a 6-day preparation week. In cricket, Proteas men's fast bowler Lungi Ngidi has been ruled out of the upcoming Sri Lanka and Pakistan inbound tours due to a groin injury. The 28-year-old recently underwent a medical assessment as part of his structured conditioning period, during which scans revealed that he has injured his groin. He will now begin a rehabilitation program and is expected to return to play in January. Test captain Themba Bavuma is making positive progress on the other side in his recovery from a left elbow injury, and he will undergo a fitness test on the 18th of November to determine his availability for the match against Sri Lanka, which starts on the 27th of November. Then in marathon news, the Johannesburg City Marathon has announced its second edition, which is scheduled for the 30th of March next year, starting at 6 p.m. The event will feature 3 race distances, 42, 21 and 10 kilometer, all taking place at the Kliprivier Recreation Centre in Johannesburg. And the organizers have set a participant cap of 10,000 runners. Natalie Rolf, the secretary of the Harriers Athletics Club, which is overseeing the event, confirmed to the national broadcaster that registration for next year's race is now open and encouraged runners to sign up.
It's a great race. Firstly, it's very challenging. There's lots of ups, there's flats, there's downs. You get to see the city from a different point of view. As a Comrades qualifier, but we also need walkers to know that they are most welcome to enter the 10 kilometers and the 21 kilometers.
Then in football, Nigeria and Uganda are on the brink of securing their places in the finals as match day 5 of the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers takes center stage. With both sides needing just a point to qualify for the tournament, Nigeria and Uganda will lock horns with Benin in Abidjan today and South Africa in Kampala respectively tomorrow. Now Ghana, on the other hand, could be eliminated by the time that they take on Angola in Luanda tomorrow, as Sudan will qualify if they avoid defeat away against Niger. in Lome on Thursday today. Now, elsewhere, England captain Harry Kane says that he's disappointed with the number of withdrawals from the England squad this week, suggesting that some England players have forgotten the importance of representing their country. 9 players pulled out of England's squad to face Greece today and Republic of Ireland on Monday night. Aaron Ramsdale, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Levi Colwill, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, Cole Palmer and Jack Grealish and Phil Foden all withdrew from the squad. Interim coach Lee Carsley, however, on the other side, says none of the current squad have spoken to him about the issues brought up by Kane and dismissed a suggestion that there's that club versus country situation that is currently brewing. If you had to choose as a player, Ashraf, club versus country.
Look, I don't think you can choose. Let me give you a longer answer. I understand 9 players have been withdrawn, but for Harry Kane, he's the captain, right?
He's the captain.
For him to make a pronouncement without checking the facts of every one of them. You see, when you make a pronouncement like that, you have to know the facts of every one of the 9 players. Otherwise, you're lumping them all together. So he's assuming a lot of things, which is very, very bad for morale. You don't do that as a captain.
But do you think he's assuming? You don't think he knows?
Well, he can never know until he gets a doctor's letter from every one of them. He can never, ever know that. He will never know. I know people have feigned injury. Rassie Erasmus famously feigned injury as well, by the way. Went on to win a World Cup later on. They would do that. So I'm just saying from his point, tactically he's wrong. On the other hand, Temba asked me the other day, Temba, our producer, am I watching the games this week? And I said, no. I watched the European Championship, watched the AFCON. But the qualifiers, I only watch Bafana play. I don't have the time because there's just not enough time. And this what is this called? It's this European, it's not
Nations League.
You know what? It's the Europa League of the Champions League of European football. I mean, with respect, okay? And maybe the last thing I should say in answering that question, the one coach who was famous for pulling his players out of friendly international matches, right? And I call this friendly with inverted commas because he had a very big league game coming up soon and he wanted players to be rested. Do you know his name?
You tell me.
Alex Ferguson. Go and check it out. You could guarantee his players will be withdrawn. He'll find some reason or the other. You can debate right and wrong because he's got a priority. That coach survives by what his club does, not by what the players do for their country.
Well, with that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
EFC 119 is live this Thursday with a stellar main event featuring interim champion Terrence the Black Panther Balelo and Edson the Trapdoor Spider Machavani vying for the genuine 24-carat flyweight title, whilst the co-main event will usher in a new era. South Africa's Dana Van Wyk and Nigeria's Juliet Chukwu battle it out for the 135-pound golden buckle. EFC 119 from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Right, certainly call us. Get it off your chest. What for you is moving the national pulse today? I certainly want to know. To call in, it's 086 000 2032, and then WhatsApp, text, voice notes 0614 104 107. And by the way, if you're listening, first-time caller, first-time listener, please let me know so I know, so I can honor you, seriously. And if you're listening from outside the borders via, streaming live, I also want to know that too, okay? Let's get some calls. Joseph has a view on the miners. Hi, Joseph.
Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you, Joseph.
Ashraf, you know what's happening here? I think the minister is not wrong. He is right. Yes, you've got the right to leave, but also with responsibility. So, you know what's happening? Northwest community who said no, they're gonna go there and rescue that illegal miners. So I think the police, they must arrest also those who say they're gonna pull them out, because I think they work with them. The minister is right. I don't think, I'm a truck driver, I can't go under the ground and rescue. I don't know how that place, how dangerous it is. I think it's one of them. Those who say they're going to go down there, they must start to arrest them also.
No, but I think that's different. Once they come up or they can be arrested, I think the question is not whether they should be arrested or not. The question is, if they are trapped underground, should they be left underground to die, basically? That's really the issue.
Who send them there? The way they go down there, they must also go out the same way. If you go there, which means you work with them, you benefit, which means you benefit also.
Okay, got that. Thank you for your... Well, clearly they're working with other people, and that's happened. There's been disused mines. They've been overtaken. There's a profit motive behind this. There's no question about that, isn't it? Thanks for that, Joseph in Bloemfontein. Temba in Umlazi. Go ahead, Temba. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Good to talk to you. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
Listen, man. First of all, I want to say to the minister, if she was close to me, I'll kiss her forehead. All right?
Yeah.
I want to tell her that she must not be surprised. These white people will come over her. They are going to criticize her left and right. But there's nothing to apologize about. So don't make this thing of death of these people dying as if it's a surprise. When these people went down there, they knew very well that they might live or they might die. So now, when you put food in there, what message are you sending? Are you saying take food and continue doing criminal things down there and mining illegally? What are you saying? Who said if you give them food, they will come out? They are not going to come out. They will continue with the nonsense that they are doing underground there.
So you say what should be done? You're saying they should do what?
They must just come out. It's their choice. It's not somebody's choice. It's their choice. It's either they come out or they die. It's simple like that. If they come out, then they will get food. It's simple like that. And then they will go to prison. So we cannot wake up in the morning and work hard and pay tax, and then the next thing, our money is given to this criminal to feed them to continue illegal mining. Is that what we are supposed to do? Is this South Africa a banana republic now?
Well, okay, I hear you, and clearly, I mean, that issue is so debated from so many different people. One is about if they're illegal, but when they are in a mess downstairs, do you let them die or do you rescue them and then arrest them? So thank you for that. That's another thought, Temba in Umlazi. I don't think that's the end of it. What about you? What do you feel? I mean, and seriously speaking, one is what do you feel about it, but the other one is like, if you were the president of the country, or the minister in the presidency, and you have this conversation today after yesterday's pronouncements, what would you be saying? And then how do you get to a situation where, even if they've done wrong to go down under, how do you get to a situation where you come out of this thing showing some degree of statesmanship? Or do you just ignore it and say, well, you did wrong, go down there and die? I mean, I'm really looking for answers. I'm looking for the type of statesmanship that sometimes we expect here on the National Pulse. Let's talk to Nicholas Bauer in a moment. He's the author of a book called Great Johannesburg. Don't laugh, okay? It is called Great Johannesburg, right after this.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's get then to a fascinating book called Great Johannesburg. I did say don't laugh because you may say, what do you mean called Great Johannesburg? We all know about that world-class African city, don't we? Now, the full title, Great Johannesburg, What Happened, ? How to Save an African Economic Giant. And it's been written by Nicholas Bauer. He's an author, but of course he's a broadcaster. He once worked at SAFM and then everywhere else around the country. Nicholas, good chatting to you, even if we're not seeing each other in person. Face-to-face via Zoom, right?
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice. Good to be with the SAFM listeners again, Ashraf. It always feels like a homecoming every time I speak to someone on SAFM, and yeah, it's also good to speak to such a great, passionate South African like yourself. And let's be honest, you're also a Joburger like myself, through and through.
I absolutely am. No question about that, right? And I love my country and I love my city, but I'm also very dismayed by what's happened to my great Johannesburg, or world-class African city, which then brings me seriously onto the book, right? Now, the book, as you know, it's obviously more in-depth about the problems of what has happened to the city. So what got you to write about it in the first place? What was your trigger?
So you grew up in Johannesburg thinking that it's this crazy place. And you know, in spite of the fact that so many people live here their entire lives, you'll struggle to find people that will actually compliment Johannesburg. They've always got something bad to say about the City of Gold. Oh, this is happening in the City of Gold, and these standards have dropped, and it's terrible. And you know, I'm very much a Joburger that loves to find beauty in negative spaces. And across the length and breadth of my career as a journalist, I also worked in the city of Johannesburg as a civil servant for a year. And I'm also a social impact entrepreneur starting Dlala Nje at Ponte in Hillbrow. I'm actually calling, on the phone from Ponte's 51st floor as we speak. And Ashraf, we're at a very important juncture in Johannesburg's history, where we are really seeing a rapid decline of the city's fortunes. And this book is really just about me trying to contextualize where the city is, what those problems are, what the historical context is, and more importantly, what we as every single Joburger living in the city can do to try and arrest the decline.
Okay, so help us then with some answers in terms of what do you think? What is caused? I mean, look, when we say the good old days, it's a misnomer, because the good old days meant apartheid South Africa or apartheid Joburg. So you can't always make that type of comparison. But you can say that the streets were safer, the streets were cleaner, and somehow or the other, even in apartheid South Africa, there was a sense of more things were working than were not working, even though it was divided, okay? So democracy came in 1994, and your book traces some of that to where we are now. So what do you think, what's gone wrong?
I think first and foremost, Joburgers need to get real about the city. Johannesburg is not Paris. Johannesburg's not Tokyo. Johannesburg's not Beijing. Johannesburg's not Buenos Aires or New York. It's Joburg. It has a specific way of doing things. It has a specific history. And it is the biggest city in the world that has no water source. The most basic thing that you need for human life does not exist in abundance in Joburg. It's an unnatural place. It only exists because of the long 100-kilometer or so vein of gold that ran from east to west that made the city, right, Ashraf? Mm-hmm. And we can say that Joburg's lost its way now, but Joburg's never been this beautiful, immensely pretty, fantastic place to live. It's always been this place where desperation and opportunity live joined at the hip. And while there may be the promise of fortune just around the corner, there also may be the opportunity of falling into a ditch, quite literally or figuratively. And this book is trying to just look at some of the problems that we have, right? I mean, you were speaking about Zama-Zamas on the program already today. We are not going to see the end of Zama-Zamas through violent policing. We just won't. The gold price is too high and unemployment is also too high, right? As long as there's precious metals under the ground, just laying there, people are going to go mine it. Why don't we try and be progressive about it? Why don't we try and embrace artisanal mining? Try and issue artisanal mining licenses, and try and, in the same way, get revenue from it in terms of taxes and fees. Also try and formalize it and make it safer, because it's not going away. And this is the type of progressive thinking that I'm trying to talk about in the book, and also try and nudge Joburgers to do their bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, okay, maybe put that on pause for just a second, because I just want to look at some of the solutions just now. But I just want to also understand just what happened in terms of the decline, okay? And without spending an hour, because we don't have time, we've got a few minutes, right? Are there three things perhaps that you can highlight and identify that marked the decline of the city in the last 15 years or so?
Well, first and foremost has to be political instability, Ashraf. Working as part of a multi-party coalition in the government of the city of Johannesburg in 2022, really that is where the management of the city begins and ends. Political instability, because during my time there, you could see that it was palpable in terms of the elected officials trying to show that they're doing something. But the thing about governance is that it's not sexy to do the things right. To do really basic fundamental governance things that bear fruit at the end of a 3-year cycle. You need to be seen doing something and doing something now. And what it results in is civil servants, elected officials running around chasing their tails, trying to illustrate that they are saving the city, but not actually ending up doing much themselves. And secondly, I'd like to say walkability in the city, I think, has completely disappeared. The only people that walk in Johannesburg are the working poor or the destitute. If you have other options, you're not walking the streets. And if we want to see that return, I think we need to, in our own corners of the city, actually just go out and experience the streets ourselves. There's no reason to say that the street is not your own and to be scared in your own neighborhood. And then last but not least, there's a general melancholy in terms of Johannesburg's situation, Ashraf. I mean, in the past 15 years, we've progressively seen this disappearance of hope in Johannesburg. And I think if we're going to arrest the decline, we need to start remembering why Joburg is so special. It is unnatural to have a place as big as Joburg without a natural water source, all right? It only exists because of the gold. That gold is long gone, but what remains is its people. The people of Johannesburg is the true resource now. And I just think, if we look at one example, and I'll end on this, is that, the wilds in Johannesburg was a place where angels fear to tread. And it took one Joburger in the form of James Delaney to go against the prophets of doom. And he was joined by many other Joburgers along the way. And within a space of a year and a half, 2 years, he turned that public space around into what it is now, a botanical oasis in the middle of Joburg on the border of Hillbrow.
So, and I think you spent time living at Ponte, am I right? I mean, you're there now, but you also live there, right?
Yeah. I'm actually, this used to be my apartment. I lived here for 5 years. Between 2012 and 2017, it's now a venue that is owned by Dlala and Jay. I mean, I'll turn around the view here so you can see out the window. It really is something to behold. Look at that beautiful Johannesburg. Really, you don't get a better view than this place. And you'll see Sandton in the distance over there. And yeah, it's a very misunderstood place, Ashraf, but a place that's extremely close to my heart.
Well, I mean, but the reality is, and you know this, and I know as well, the walkability is because people are just too darn scared. And I certainly wouldn't, and I'm generally optimistic, okay? So, a couple of things before we wrap up then. To what degree do we owe the issues of influx and immigration to the city post-1994 and the inability to manage that as a major reason for decline, keeping in mind the same influx and immigration is what we owe to the growth of Joburg in the first place when they struck gold, right?
Exactly, Ashraf. I mean, for me, it's absolutely foolhardy to blame xenophobia and blame immigration as the downfall of Johannesburg. The real reason why the city's on the skids. Johannesburg was founded on immigration. It really is just a perpetual immigration in and out of the city of gold. And I think that the only way we get around this, right, we're not going to stop people coming to Johannesburg, the so-called New York of Africa, in search of opportunity. We need to embrace the people that want to be here and make value, not only for themselves and their family, but also the people around them, the city of Johannesburg and South Africa as a whole, and offer them a route to formal citizenship and formal normalized residency, and offer tax breaks to the people that are already here in places like Hillbrow, Berea, Yeovil. They're already continental African enclaves, Ashraf. We need to stop trying to repel the things that we don't like and try and work out a way in which we can embrace the things that are in front of us, the opportunities that lay before us in the city of Johannesburg. But we can't wish our problems away.
Yeah, but
we need
part
to
of that,
embrace our challenges and move a way forward.
Part of that, you've dedicated a chapter to spatial inequality. You've also spoken about the mayoral musical chairs, which I think we all know about, right? And I think you touched on, I think what's called redlining, if I've got it right, about, banks unwilling to actually finance investment in terms of people buying apartments in areas like Hillbrow and Berea. I'm going back about 15 years ago, and we're paying the price for that now.
Yeah, Ashraf, I mean, I think it's an absolute crime that in 2024 in South Africa, you will easily get a loan for a car on hire purchase than you would to fund a business or fund a home that you want to purchase for your family, especially in areas that are deemed too risky for banks, finance institutions to take a risk on and finance you. Redlining has eviscerated areas not only like Hillbrow, Berea and Yeovil. Try and go to other parts of Johannesburg and get a mortgage for a place like Troyville, for instance. And you'll also find banks umming and ahhing. And I think it's that type of predatory approach to finance that I think is a big problem for South Africa and is not going to go any way forward in terms of addressing our problems of economic growth if we don't start trying to encourage the banks, finance institutions to take risk on people that want to create value. And I think that redlining, because it still exists today, is a clear example of how South African finance sector is not ready for that mindset change, Ashraf.
Let's end by going to your last chapter in the book, right, which is called Shine or Succumb, Where Will the City of Gold Go? So I suppose in your research you've probably looked at maybe 3 very practical, doable solutions to try and turn the city around in the way you would turn a failing rugby team around or football team, right? So what are the 3 things that you think needs the most urgent attention and can be done?
First and foremost, you don't need to turn around the whole of the city by yourself. Just turn around your corner of Johannesburg. Try and work with the people living around you in your immediate vicinity, whether or not it's in your apartment block, in your complex, or on your street. We're not going to fix Johannesburg's problems by building taller walls and trying to just opt out of the problems that face us. We need to build longer tables and try and work out how we, the Joburgers, the people that live in this city, can turn these opportunities, these challenges into opportunities. So there, fundamentally, it's a mindset change. And Ashraf, when I say do something in your corner of the city, whether or not it's instead of jumping in your car to drive 2 minutes to go and buy chocolate from the petrol station, why not walk? Why not experience the city, your own part of Johannesburg, by walking it? I think that's a key thing, right? Walkability is absolutely critical.
But you won't walk because it's not safe. I mean, isn't that the truth?
I understand that, Ashraf, but it starts with just one, very often just one person or one group of people. Yeah, and I have to refer back to the example of these walks that we do in Hillbrow. 2012 was the first walk that we did. In 12 years, we've taken over 30,000 tourists, local and international tourists, on walks through Hillbrow and tours of Ponte itself. People think that was impossible 10, 12 years ago, but it's been done. And it's the same sort of mindset change that you need, whether or not you live in Greenside, whether or not you live in Aldos, experience that city and try and ensure that the people around you also have the same idea in terms of not just succumbing to the prophets of doom.
Okay.
I understand it may be a bridge too far for many that feel very, very unsafe in their own communities, but the only way that you change that is by uniting together and trying to do something in your own corner of Johannesburg.
Okay, we're on to news time. So is there one other quick solution? Short answer?
Never, ever, ever give up on Johannesburg. Johannesburg is that one place that no matter what you want to do, if you knock on enough doors, you'll be able to find someone to help you. Joburgers need to help themselves. And there's great initiatives, not only like Lalanje, but also Josie My Josie and others that are going to ensure that this city does not succumb to the prophets of doom. Joburg, don't count it out just yet. We may be on the canvas, to use a boxing term, but we're definitely not counted out just yet, Ashraf. Johannesburg will rise once more.
Well, there you are. Thank you for your time, Nicholas Bauer. It is the ultimate hustler city. I think there's no question about that. Nicholas Bauer, the author of the book, Great Johannesburg, What Happened, ? How to Save an African Economic Giant. Get the book. Thanks for your time, Nicholas. Much appreciated. We'll have a podcast up of that pretty soon. Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Number of Guyana learners hospitalized rises, and IAEA chief holds talks in Iran on its nuclear program. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. The number of learners taken to hospital due to a suspected foodborne illness from Dzumeri Primary School in Guyana has risen to 50. Health spokesperson Nil Shikwambana says the learners are receiving treatment at Nkensani Hospital. Shikwambana elaborates.
It is reported that after consuming food at the school, they then started showing signs of abdominal pains and vomiting. Our EMS were actually called into the scene where they collected the learners and took them to Nkensani Hospital, where they are being examined and seen by our medical team currently.
The Department of Health in the Northwest says one suspected illegal mine worker has been admitted at the Klerksdorp Tsapong Hospital. The miner was retrieved together with 4 others yesterday and is in police custody. This comes after residents took it upon themselves to rescue about 4,500 illegal miners who are still underground at a shaft in Stilfontein. The body of one illegal miner was retrieved today. Provincial Health Department spokesperson is Woitoko Muremi.
The Northwest Department of Health can confirm admission of one illegal mine worker to Klerksdorp Hospital. The adult male has been diagnosed with chronic anemia and will be kept under observation at the facility. The MEC for the department, Selole Hari, wishes him a speedy recovery and encourages the law to take its course.
Former ANC Treasurer General Matthew Sposa says that the party was buried at the 2007 Polokwane conference. Sposa made the comments today during his interview with SABC News to discuss his political memoir, Witness to Power. The 2007 ANC conference in Polokwane saw former President Jacob Zuma succeed President Thabo Mbeki, who was running to be party leader for a 3rd time. Sposa says that the contest between Mbeki and Zuma at that conference resulted in a permanent split of the party.
And you knew that the contest between Zuma and Thabo will create a permanent split in the party. It was very clear. It was almost equal blocks contesting. You will not tell easily which one is going to win. And that is the recipe for a split, a big split in the party, which never existed between the two individuals. And indeed, that split, it slaughtered the ANC and we buried it there. It never recovered from that split.
Gauteng Deputy Police Commissioner Fred Kekana says psychosocial support will be offered to police officers stationed at the Alexandra Police Station north of Johannesburg. 2 officers were shot and wounded by a suspect during a shootout with the police. The suspect was fatally wounded. The incident happened at the police station's charge office. Kekana says a similar incident happened at the same police station a few years ago.
The police officer was wearing civilian clothes. The firearm was in the holster. He grabbed that firearm and started shooting randomly. And during that situation, unfortunately, he shot one sergeant, a 46-year-old male, and a constable, a 27-year-old male member. Both of them, they were shot on their right shoulders. They were rushed to hospital. As a department, we are attending to their mental health and their emotional condition through our social workers and psychologists.
The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, has held what he has described as an indispensable meeting with the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in his latest visit to discuss Iran's nuclear program. The minister said Iran could resolve its disputes with the IAEA through cooperation and negotiation, but not under pressure. Grossi expressed confidence on working with Iran.
In front of us, we have situation of tension, the nuclear program of Iran being at the center of that. I am here to work with Iran, try to find adequate solutions to ease tensions, to move forward. This is my target, this is my concern, and I'm confident that we are going to be able to do it.
Recapping the top story, the number of learners taken to hospital due to a suspected foodborne illness from Dzumeri Primary School in Giyani has risen to 50. I am Ondalambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 4:30.
In sports, Uganda versus Bafana Bafana match sold out, and F1 to race in Monaco until 2031. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N14 westbound has a crash reported after the R114 Diepsloot exit. The N17 in Soweto has a crash reported at Soweto Highway Circle, and the R23 highway in Bredell has a crash reported at the R21 highway. In KZN, on the R102 Andrew Road southbound, that has delays towards Athlone Park due to diversion volumes from the N2 southbound closure. There will also be delays through the Prospection area due to traffic being diverted from the N2 southbound closure, and delays between Isipingo and Mbongotwini due to vehicles diverting from the N2 southbound closure. In the Free State, on the N3 southbound, truck crash recovery near Frankfurt Interchange. In Mpumalanga, on the N4 in Komatipoort at Limpopo border post, you're asked to check before travel to confirm border operations due to unrest on the Mozambique side. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Krombum Road exit. The M3 inbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 inbound is slow moving towards Yeptiaga Avenue. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Lina Lakake Tlompokekana, I'm former Mamelodi Sundowns captain. I'm a sports analyst, Lago SABC Sport. When I'm home, I try by all means to practice cooking. My favorite home-cooked meal, I'll go for pap and masonja because I can prepare that with easy. What do I normally get up to when I get a moment to myself? I would easily, play my guitar. I try to practice a lot of Tracy Chapman. My favorite foreign language is French. Bonjour. So if I didn't play beautiful football, I think I was gonna be a baseball player. What do I like about SABC Sport is the fact that we given an opportunity to educate.
Catch the exciting Diski analysis by Sompo Long Range Kekana on match days live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Festive season is around the corner. Salary to hooray! Unlike most, Paul, I don't sweat going home because I have a Nedbank Just Invest account. So I'll be up this festive season. No borrowing, guys. Even you, Mr. Voiceman.
Must be nice to be you, Mabel. Mara, you can also be like Mabel and earn up to 8.5% interest. Open yours via the Money app in under 2 minutes. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply. Visit nedbank.co.za for more info.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Oh, that conversation with Nicholas Bauer certainly got me thinking regarding Great Johannesburg, what's caused the decline, and how does Johannesburg effectively get off the canvas in boxing parlance. And it's a big question. And really for Johannesburg, you could say the same with Durban or eThekwini. You could say the same thing there. Then let's take the other big city, Cape Town. I can tell you now, the downtown Cape Town area, absolutely spotless, stunning, very, very tourism friendly. But we also know that the Cape Flats remain unchanged for all these years, and they are absolute no-go areas. But I can then apply and extend it to many other towns. What about your town? I mean, do you find that your town's working fine and okay? Or do you find there are huge problems in your town and you've seen the decay over a period to the point where you cannot believe what has happened to your town, your dorpie, your village or your city? If that's the case, I'd like to know. I mean, how about you sharing your experiences with us, your personal experiences of what you feel about it? You can WhatsApp 0614 104 107, or you can, that's voice note or text, or you can call into 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Maybe the last thing just on that point, okay, is this. I think the one thing Nicholas Bauer made, the one point he made that I think is really telling is this. What you can do is attempt to fix up not the entire city if you have a problem with it, because it's beyond your control. But what you can do is effectively ring fence a suburb that is within your control. And if 10 people or 20 people within a suburb are able to ring fence that suburb, identify the problems, and start working on the problems and getting others to mobilize around that, you could actually have a situation of fixing that suburb to the point where it will be a wow to the next door suburb. And then what you want is the next door suburb to do the same thing. It is an amplification of what I've said often. How do you build a champion nation? You build a champion nation by building champion communities, and you build champion communities one community at a time. So that part of building champion communities is completely within our control, not absolutely, but to a large degree. And perhaps the conversation with Nicholas Bauer has got me thinking about maybe a conversation I need to be having with my community. Say, come on, can we really tackle what is within our control? And maybe we can then tell the rest of our city later on to say, hey, we got it right. How about you emulating us? Now, that would be something. That certainly is my point. Okay, let's get on to something else in terms of another big point that you should be considering. What about Julius Malema? Now, he's lost Dali Mpofu, he's lost Floyd Shivambu, and there are a whole lot of other people that have been part of the EFF. And, of course, they lost numbers in the previous election where it was a given for many people that the EFF would grow to become a substantial power and maybe even, as they talked about it, the government in waiting, right? That quite did not happen. Now, yesterday, Malema spoke on the EFF podcast, and what he said about a few things certainly got us thinking enough to say, hold it, man, this moves the national pulse. What did he say about many things? First things first, his comments on the departure of Floyd Shivambu.
I mean, Floyd says, and he's not lying, Floyd says there are people who knew that he was leaving, and they begged him not to tell me. But they knew, and it's true. They told me after, some of them, some of your favorites. I called them, I said, come here.
Pokey again.
And then I say, did you know Floyd is leaving? He says, yes. For how long did you know? He says, no, it's 2 weeks now. So why didn't you tell me? No, I didn't see a need to tell you. And then Floyd gets asked the same question. Why didn't you see a need to tell Julia? Says, they respond the same way. I didn't see the need to inform him. Why would you say you care about the EFF? That's not what I'm saying to them. But why would you say you care for the EFF? You get told such a sensitive information, and you don't bring it to the attention of the leadership that, look, there is this thing. I'm not sure how true it is, but it's going to happen. And I said, okay, but what was your advice when that happened? I asked him if his mother prayed for him. I asked him if he prayed about it. And that's it. And then we must still come, Lien. We're human beings, man. Come on. We must still come and still be like, we're sharp, we're fine, we're together.
You have your human
no, but
you do
organizationally, you come, you do your work, and then you go your separate ways.
Okay, so there you are. Malema confirming that some senior members of the EFF effectively knew 2 weeks before Floyd Shivambu's departure that he was leaving, and they did not tell him. Now, he continued. He spoke about, now, the minister, Gayton McKenzie, and he said, Gayton, well, he always looks happy, but in doing so, he does that to cover up his own traumas.
That he might be good on that one. But politically, he is no one And I understand Gayton's problems because, you know, he pretends all happy. Everybody gets confused to say the happiest minister in GNU. He smiles and all. But if you look deep into him, he's using that to close down his own traumas. I mean, if you want to know how Gayton thinks, there is no way. Prison has got its own traumas. Sure. You go and look at, you listen to Gayton, and then you go and look at the podcast of Scheme GP where he interviews ex-prisoners. And they explain those traumas. You're like, huh? There's no way this one survived those things. So he pretends to be happy, but as he sits home alone, his demons visit him. And he wish he was like us. He will never be us. He's nowhere close to us, political, and he's no one to declare the death of the EFF. I mean,
okay, so that's Malema on Gayton McKenzie. Can't sort of match up to us, is what he effectively says. Well, he had more to say about another opposition leader, and we're talking about Helen Zille. And effectively, he bounced back the point that Helen Zille made. Interesting. So he effectively is quoting her about something that is rather profound.
Mapantiti, no conference. Zuma, MKP, no conference. You can go on and on. None of them hold a conference. And they are not pretentious about it. They don't say, maybe we'll see it. They say, no, there's not going to be any conference here. They are not called dictators. But ourselves who go to be held accountable, political report, organizational report, treasurer's report, accountable. You are being held accountable. And then get to be subjected to re-election if you are available and still lose. Yet you are called a dictator because they want to delegitimize, the EFF. Helen Zille makes it very clear. The white monopoly capital said we must protect Ramaphosa against the EFF. And she goes further to say there are only two political parties in South Africa. It's the EFF and the DA. Because our policy positions are very clear and we do not agree. And she's right. I think as she gets old, she starts telling the truth, raw as it is, and it's not good for them, but she's just talking and telling the truth the way it is. Why should Ramaphosa be protected from the EFF and not the rest of these other political parties? Why do they form all political parties, and all these political parties are formed to fight the EFF, including Rise Muzanzi? I mean, that guy, you can confuse him for some receptionist there in Parliament. He doesn't even look like it doesn't look like a member of Parliament, doesn't inspire anything. He gets given 30 million plus to issue SMSs that don't vote for EFF. They are rude, they are disrespectful. I mean, why would you spend so much money to write such absolute nonsense? So you cannot falter the EFF ideologically, politically, and organizationally. That's why you try to find peripheral issues. You say, what is revolutionary about saying Zuma has got double deck head? It's double deck. What must we do? It's political humor. It's a political humor. When you say Ramaphosa has got a big nose, it's a political humor. But because you don't have humor, you're cold, you never give even a firm handshake or a firm hug. You want us, all of us, to be cold. It's a political humor.
All right, she says, interesting, he looks at Helen Zille and it almost comes across as like validation from Helen Zille, which is another example of the amazing world we live in this country. Now, finally, Malema then spoke about being expelled from the ANC by Jacob Zuma, and then made a very interesting point about the existence and what threatens maybe the existence of the EFF, which I think you need to listen to.
No, I defeated Zuma. Zuma thought he buried me, expelled me from the ANC for comparing him with Thabo Mbeki, for saying there is a regime change which happened in Botswana now. I was guilty for that. I was expelled from the ANC by Zuma, and Ramaphosa was used as an instrument. So Zuma, my encounter with Zuma is not for the first time that it is the way it is now. He's inviting me back to fight with him, and I will do it, and I will do it with ease. I'm not scared of Zuma or all of his people who are working with him. There is no way anyone is going to threaten the existence of the EFF and that person becomes a friend. It will be a lie. We'll be lying to ourselves. People keep on stepping you at the back, and then when they meet you in public, they want to be smiling and all of that. No. Keep your distance. Let's just know we are not together. Let's do our own separate things, and let's build our own organizations. We wish everyone well. Let them go and do whatever they want to do. Many of them are known for laziness anyway.
Okay. But they can't be chommies. I mean, that's basically what Julius Malema is saying.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM. Prime time all day long.
Okay, I'm sure you have lots of thoughts, and we'll take your calls, not quite now, but in about 10 minutes' time, about some of the ranges of issues, including Julius Malema and the EFF. Well, that's why when I asked you the question, what moves the national pulse? Goodness, man, there's so many things that are moving the pulse today, and your pulse rate must be racing. The ongoing issue of the Zama-Zamas, the ongoing issue, I see now again, a whole lot of children being admitted to a hospital for poisoned foods. Where did that come from? And it's like the norm now. Every single day we're hearing those stories, right? Isn't it? We'll talk to Momita Aish, the head of the WITS Anglo-American Digital Dome, at about 10 to 5. Remember, I touched on it yesterday because I attended the launch. It is fabulous. But we'll talk about that just now. Let's get to another issue. You may remember we spoke about this a few weeks ago, about a project that asks parents to delay the introducing of smartphones to teens, almost like a delay before they actually can use it, right? So we thought let's talk about that from another perspective, and that is to understand what is called phone-free schools. Really? Is that genuinely possible? Why would we even want to do that? Kate Karina is with us, the founder of Be In Touch, Safer and Saner Kids. Kate, appreciate your time. You are now connected to the National Pulse.
Hello, Ashraf, and lovely to be talking with you this afternoon about this very important topic.
Much appreciated. Are you speaking to me from a mobile phone? Just checking.
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know you're out of school, so it's okay, right?
I know. I'm an adult. I'm over 25.
Well,
my prefrontal cortex hopefully is quite well developed, but, you know, with phones and these apps, with these wonderful algorithms that are built into them, I find it very difficult to disconnect and unplug myself.
I'm sure about that. Okay, what is your pitch? You have a concern and you have a solution. What is it?
Well, I am part of the Smartphone Free Childhood chapter, the South African chapter. I think you talked to them last week. You talked to one of our co-founders about delaying smartphones. And one of the other legs, the big new norms that have come out of lots of the research, and particularly Jonathan Haidt, who's published a bestseller earlier this year around these new norms, is pushing for phone-free schools. You know, we as parents do so much to help our kids succeed and to get ahead, but actually one of the biggest things we can do for them is help them get a break from their screens. When you're looking at the sort of results, a staggering 7 to 9 hours a day being spent on a phone by a teenager. That's huge. And one of the simplest ways that we can help give them a break is with phone-free school days, at least during the academic day.
So, help us understand when you say phone-free. I don't want to interpret that differently. What does phone-free mean on a school day for you?
So, probably a phone-free school is not a school where learners, the policy is that you just aren't allowed to take your phone out in class, because the kids do, and they have to be reminded continually by teachers to put it away. Between classes, they'll take their phones out in the bathrooms during breaks, and it means these phones are interfering not only with learning, because they're a huge distraction, and they also cause a host of other issues, including cyberbullying on school property. But it's also interfering with their social time as well, which is vital for development of interpersonal skills in the adolescence era. So we're just part of the movement that's saying we just want to give these kids a break. There's no need for phones at schools. They're a distraction for learners and for teachers. And we've actually started a petition to the Minister of Basic Education, because we'd love to see national legislation following the lead of other countries like France and Netherlands that have set the tone at a national level and require schools to have phone-free academic spaces.
So, again, just when we say phone-free on a given day, is it free the entire day? Is it free for a few hours? Is it free every single day? That means if you go to that school, you can't have a mobile phone? Tell me.
Yeah. So it means that when the learner comes to school, and we know and we understand that, particularly when you get to high school and hopefully later in high school, but learners need smartphones perhaps to catch transport. Some learners have smartphones for medical reasons. But it basically means that when the learner comes to school in the morning, that phone is securely stored, preferably in a locker. We just reckon good old-fashioned lockers with a lock and a key are the way to go for South African schools. And it's outside of the classroom in some public area where it's not easy for them to access. And at the end of the school day, some schools are going for the end of the academic day, perhaps at 2:30. Other schools are saying, actually, we want you guys to be interacting and to be present during extramurals, so you're actually only going to get your phones after extramurals. But that depends on the school-to-school policy. But at the minimum, the school day is an academic day, and that at the end of the day, that's when the learners can collect their phones and go on to extramurals, catch their transport, or go home.
So what is the norm at the moment in South Africa? Meaning, can a learner, primary school, high school, can they sit with their mobile phones in the classroom right throughout the day right now while the teacher's teaching?
Yeah, we've got a very mixed bag. We've got a lot of schools that are starting to shift. They've learned a lot from what's happened this year. It's been a big global shift of learning as the research has come out. And we've seen more and more, particularly high schools, coming on board. And we're going to see a lot of them announcing for this new year that they're going to be phone-free. We're working with a few of them that are creating their policies as we speak. We've seen schools, for example, the Wickham Collegiate in Pietermaritzburg. Sue Tasker, the headmistress there, she's had a phone-free environment there for 10 years. St. Albans and Pretoria recently declared a phone-free environment for learners and staff during the academic day. And St. Cyprian's, the girls' school in Cape Town, recently announced as well that they are going to be a phone-free school. We're going to see very shortly a whole host of very big Joburg schools that we're going to go this route. So, yeah, watch this space. There's lots of action happening.
Well, I would think first things first, why would it have been allowed in the first place? I mean, why would, taking a phone to the classroom while you're being taught is like maybe potentially watching a movie at the same time. Why would that have happened in the first place?
Well, I think we're a bit like, frogs in boiling water. It's happened over time, and suddenly we're like, well, how did we actually get here? And although a lot of schools have policies that you're not supposed to have your phone switched on, the reality is that kids are, responding to notifications. They're texting or they're on their social media under the table, and teachers have this endless task of trying to gather their, capture their attention back again. So I think it's just been, we're having a reality check now, and we're saying, actually, this is not right, and we need to help our teachers as much as our learners to create a really distraction-free space to help their academic performance and their cognitive capacity and function,
All right, here's the last thing. We're on to news time. So quickly, how do you balance that against the the absolute global need for digitization, for more and more. I mean, I've just been to the planetarium in Johannesburg yesterday, and that's now a digital dome, and we'll talk about that at 10 to 5, meaning everything is becoming more digital. You certainly want to also ensure that learners are literate as opposed to illiterate in understanding the modern technology. What's your quick thought to that?
So EduTech is a part of our modern education, but it's something schools have to manage very carefully. So it's on laptops or it's in computer centres. Smartphones are not the tools for that, because smartphones are far too easily a portal into social media, into YouTube, into the internet, where kids go. It's not educational, it's entertaining.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Some may say they use smartphones to read books, and who's going to argue with that? But that's another take on that issue. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. For now, Kate Karina getting us to think about it, from the founder of Be In Touch, Safer and Saner Kids, that is for phone-free schools. Really? Let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela Imbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, Limpopo Health Department says additional 11 learners from Tumeri Primary School at Ndambi Village in Giyani have been taken to Kensani Hospital due to a suspected foodborne illness. This brings the total number to 50. The South African Police Services has confirmed that it has halted the process of providing food and water to illegal miners who are still underground in a mine shaft in Stilfontein in the northwest. And polls have closed in Sri Lanka's snap parliamentary elections as the new president seeks to consolidate his power. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N14 westbound has a crash reported after the R114 Dipsloot exit. The N17 southbound is slow moving at Soweto Highway Circle. Santon Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. And Stormful Road in Pretoria is slow moving through Silverton Dale. In KZN, the N2 northbound in Amanzimtoti is queuing on Twinney Hill. The N11 has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions north of Ladysmith, and the N3 in Van Rieenen has roadworks with traffic restrictions between Pyramids Hotel and the Biltong Shop. In the Free State, the N3 southbound has truck crash recovery underway near Frankfurt Interchange. In Mpumalanga, the N4 in Komatipoort at Limpopo border post, you're asked to check before travel to confirm your operations due to unrest on the Mozambique side. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The M3 inbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The M5 southbound slow moving towards Kromboom Road exit, and the N7 checks Havel Drive southbound is queuing at Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, so we did say, I was telling Keys and Temba last night, so well, you know, these international weeks means no club football, but it does mean there's international football. Let's talk Bafana.
Yeah, Bafana are in for a hostile reception in Kampala as tickets for their match against Uganda are sold out. The two nations, South Africa and Uganda, will lock horns in the second leg of the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, and it's tomorrow at 3 p.m. SA time at the Mandela National Stadium. The venue takes in 45,000 spectators. Can you imagine 45,000 possibly Ugandan fans at that stadium? Bafana will be playing there. So they need to make sure that they block the noise out and go for it, because a win will be enough for Bafana to qualify for the AFCON finals in Morocco.
And if they don't win, what happens then?
We still have another chance with the other... I think we're playing Sudan.
Okay, and then that comes up in a few days' time, right? South Sudan, I think specifically.
South Sudan, yeah.
And I mean, if they draw, would they still not?
We need 3 points.
Okay,
we need
so
3
three
points.
will get us a victory.
Yeah, 3 points will definitely get us a victory.
To qualify. All right.
So good luck to them. Then, still staying with football, looks like CAF President Patrice Motsepe can start planning for his next term after he was nominated unopposed for the presidential position when the nominations closed yesterday. Motsepe will go unopposed at the next CAF elections, which is happening happening on the 12th of March in Cairo, and he's going unopposed after former Egyptian FA president Hani Abo Rida, who was tipped to challenge him, focused on the nomination to return to the FIFA Council, a position that he's held for the past 20 years, and also regaining power in the EFA. Elsewhere, West Ham Vice Chair Karen Brady has warned that the government's proposed new football regulator could create a closed shop of top sides. The Football Governance Bill, which would lead to the creation of a regulator, was debated in the House of Lords yesterday, and the government wants a regulator to be able to improve the resilience of club finances, tackle rogue owners and directors, and also strengthen fan engagement. And the bill was introduced after a similar measure by the previous government ran out of time to be made law before the general election. In marathon, the Johannesburg City Marathon has announced its second edition, which is scheduled for the 30th of March 2025, starting at 6 p.m. The event will feature 42, 21 and 10 kilometer, all taking place at the Klip Rivers Recreation Center in Johannesburg. Organizers have set a participant cap of 10,000 runners, and Nathalie Rolf, the secretary of the Harriers Athletics Club, which is overseeing the event, confirmed to the national broadcaster that registration for next year's race is now open and encouraged runners to sign up.
It's a great race. Firstly, it's very challenging. There's lots of ups, there's flats, there's downs. You get to see the city from a different point of view. As a Comrades qualifier, but we also need walkers to know that they are most welcome to enter the 10 kilometers and the 21 kilometers.
Then moving on to tennis, retired footballer Diego Forlan lost 6-1, 6-2 in 47 minutes in his professional tennis debut in a doubles event in his native Uruguay. The former Manchester United striker and his partner lost to Boris Arias and Federico after receiving a wild card for the Uruguay Open. The tournament was on the ATP Challenger Tour, the level below the main ATP Tour. Then finally, motorsport. Monaco will continue to host Formula One races until at least 2031 after a new 6-year deal was agreed. One of the sport's most iconic and prestigious races, the Monaco Grand Prix, has been an ever-present in the F1 calendar since 1955, and there have been doubts about its future. However, because of questions regarding the suitability of the Principality's narrow streets for racing modern F1 cars, plus concerns over finances and other issues, and as part of the new deal, the race will move to the first full weekend in June from 2026. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
I'm just surprised Forlan didn't play paddle, because, I mean, everybody else is playing paddle. You know, what's his name? The Swedish striker. I can't remember this guy. This brilliant. Anyway, it'll come to me. Is it Ibrahimovic? Yes.
Ibra, he plays paddle.
He's got his own paddle club and courts. He owns it.
Paddle is the way to go.
Well, I'm just surprised that Forlan didn't play paddle, and of course he got knocked out in his first game. But, well, maybe it's good news. He's pretty good at what he does.
Yeah.
So there we are. I play paddle in case he wants to challenge me. Yeah.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only $481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. TNCs apply.
EFC 119 is live this Thursday with a stellar main event featuring interim champion Terrence the Black Panther Balelo and Edson the Trapdoor Spider Machavani, vying for the genuine 24-carat flyweight title, whilst the co-main event will usher in a new era. South Africa's Dana Van Wyk and Nigeria's Juliet Chukwu battle it out for the 135-pound golden buckle. EFC 119 from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
What a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to the numbers now with Makwe Masilena, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. So we got two thoughts. It's the Q3 update for MTN, and then local and global numbers too, right? Makwe, go for it.
Afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners. Yes, remember with MTN, relative to the first two quarters, inflation and currency volatility improved in Q3, and they navigated challenging macro and regulatory conditions better. Subscribers increased by 1.6% to 288 million, and the group service revenue decreased, unfortunately, by 18.5%, with voice and data revenue decreasing. Only fintech revenue increased by 8.5%, as their mobile money monthly active users increased by 5.7% to 61.5 million, and fintech transaction volumes up 17.4%, with value increasing by 27% to almost $229.2 billion. And after inline US consumer inflation data that self-raised the bets on December rate cut, and upcoming speech by the US Fed chair set to provide more clues, and their wholesale prices were also in line, and we've seen longer dated US bond yields rising alongside the dollar, as investors bet that Trump's policies will fuel inflation and keep interest rates higher for longer. And remember, that used to be the market fear before central bankers started cutting rates, and a firmer dollar and weak commodity prices earlier in the session did put pressure on the rand before it recovered. And locally, we saw our September mining production accelerating sharply from a 0.3% increase in August, climbing by 4.7% in September. And even though global crude supplies are expected to outstrip demand by more than 1 million barrels per day next year, oil recouped losses is up 0.8% at $73 a barrel, and the stronger dollar and yields drove a fifth straight session of declines for the yellow metal. And we see gold is down 0.5% at 2,560, with platinum being flat, and markets are positive generally, with the JSE up 0.3%, and thanks to our industrials and financials, as our resources are struggling, the rand is now flat against the US dollar, is now at 18.24, 23.14 to the pound, and 19.25 to the euro.
Okay, perfect. Important numbers there. Thanks for that, Mark. We'll chat again tomorrow. Thank you for that. Right. And by the way, we are going to chat later on to, in fact, Wits University has rebranded its planetarium. You know the iconic planetarium at Wits University at the Mill Park Football Stadium? Well, now it's called the Wits Anglo-American Digital Dome, and I'm going to have a chat about that coming up pretty shortly. I can also tell you that, yesterday we spoke about this with regards to comments from a group of people that are disgruntled regarding the MK party, and there's a position, in fact, they've taken them to court in terms of what's happened, or they plan to do that. Now, yesterday I chatted to Bishop Tebe, right, and he, from the AAAM, right? I mean, that's a church body that effectively supported the MK party, right? They said yesterday, amongst the many other things, we are going to expose the MK party. Just watch us, right? So the presser regarding the exposure or the expose will happen tomorrow, 12 noon. Naturally, we will have a response from that presser on the show here, the National Pulse. Let's get your calls now.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Reigning Miss South Africa, Mia Leroux, is in Mexico City to compete for the Miss Universe 2024 crown. Miss Universe 2024 will be broadcast live on S3 from 4 a.m. Sunday, the 17th of November, with a first repeat later the same day at 8 p.m. We urge you to vote for Mia on missuniverse.choicely.com. As the contestant with the most votes gets an automatic place in the semi-finals. No DNA. Just RSA. So channel your inner champion with Miss Universe 2024. Sunday, the 17th of November at 4 a.m. on S3. Open up.
My name's Michael Fontaine. I'm 16. I have difficulty paying attention in class, so I fell behind. That's why my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. I can't thank them enough. Their flexible learning means I can take classes when it suits me, so I get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehighschool.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 3rd of February 2025 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Well, let's get your calls, let's get your voice notes as well, and your text messages, right? Here's something on the illegal miners.
Before we get to the minister's utterance, or whatever the minister have said, as the people of this country, the complaint came with the Zamazamas within those areas. Now, the government sent the soldiers and the police to retreat people there. Now, the heavily armed people under the ground. There are people who try to sympathize. Everyone has got the rights, human rights, but they don't have a right to do what they do underground. Now, let's not play a pity, playing games, blaming others that they got their view. Anyone who wants to go and take them out, even the guy who's speaking with you, they can go down and organize their people to go and take them out because they are human.
If you want to take them out, you know what to do. That's according to that caller. There's certainly lots of opinion on, where we say what drives the national pulse today. There's no question about what it is, isn't it? Right, here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. My name is Austin from Eastern Cape. Can you just clear me out here? Are they illegal miners because they are found in the mine which is closed, or they are referred to illegal miners because they are illegal immigrants?
My understanding is they are, no, it's got nothing to do with whether they're legal or illegal immigrants. That's part we assume has been cleared. It's about them using a mine that's now disused. It's illegal to mine there now, and therefore the mine companies have just moved out of those mines completely. And others have now taken over the mines, including these miners, because they see some profit for them in terms of discovering further minerals. That's really the issue.
Hey, Ashraf, the minister knows exactly who she is talking to. I bet my bottom dollar from now until 6 o'clock, your callers will agree with the minister. So she knows exactly who she's talking to. She knows how people are going to react. Remember, ANC has lost votes, so whatever it is that they do, they must get a reaction from South Africans. Remember the xenophobic statements, they worked, some people got votes. So they also now saying things that make people excited. Thanks, says Bongi here.
Okay, says Bongi. Well, I'll tell you what, you may well be right. That means tactically, strategically, the minister is speaking to a potential electorate coming up for a local election. Isn't that what many other parties did? Can't argue with you about that. I'm not saying she's right. I'm saying can't argue with your thoughts around the strategy. And in fact, there's many others who agree with that.
Hi, Ashraf. Kenny from Centurion. The guy we just spoke to now regarding the minister and her comments, there's nothing wrong with what the minister said. She said everything that is right. She's looking after South Africans. There's nothing wrong that she said there.
Nothing wrong. Okay, let's see if we're going to take some more calls, and then we will get to further comments here. Here's another question.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Mcete here in Kala. Ashraf, we've got an active but passive government here in this country. Look how pupils are being killed every day in the country, and also the adults. all of a sudden there are also some thousands of illegal people underground, unknowingly. Ashraf, what has happened in this country? Thanks, Ashraf. Mqede here. I don't really know what is happening in South Africa anymore.
Okay, that sounds a bit of desperation, and I think what you're saying reflects the levels of frustration many people feel, because the flip side of that is there are pockets of absolute excellence and high energy and innovation that we have in our country that is just remarkable. The problem is, and this is the big challenge, how do we multiply that? Let's talk about the Wits, or Anglo-American Wits University Digital Dome. Remember Planetarium? Well, it's no more, but the Digital Dome is after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So I tell you what, if you lived in Johannesburg or even watched your team play football in the PSL, you'd know they play Wits University. There's this planetarium, the Dome building just at Mill Park Stadium. So if Wits doesn't play football anymore, now the planetarium is no more. The physical building is still there. It's been completely rebranded. In fact, there's a big whole new name as well. It's called the Wits University Anglo-American Digital Dome, right? So what actually has happened? What's the plan? Let's chat to Dr. Momita Aish, who's the head of the Wits Anglo-American Digital Dome. Thank you for your time, Dr. Aish. Appreciate you connecting to us here on the National Pulse.
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, we just lost you for a sec. Thank you for your time. You can hear me now, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So this is interesting. First of all, explain what has happened in terms of what I would call a significant change from a planetarium, which is a planet watcher, to a digital dome, which I suggest would mean something far more broader, isn't it?
Yes. So the reason why we have changed from the name planetarium to digital dome is just to make it clear that we are currently now a multidisciplinary enterprise. So it's not just about astronomy shows anymore. I mean, of course, we have majority of the shows are still astronomy based, but it is a multidisciplinary. So if you have a video on, say, marine biology, or if you have a video on mining or architecture, you are able to project that onto the dome as well. And you can enjoy that as in the same way as you would have enjoyed, say, a journey to the stars and things like that. So that is where the multidisciplinary nature comes in.
So you're saying that has changed, because in the past, yes, you're right, if you went to the planetarium, it would be on the premise of like, I'm going to watch the stars, and you're saying that's changed. What has brought about the change, and in terms of the motivation around that?
So that is just basically the shows which I'm talking about. But the major change which we have is we used to have a Zeiss projector, a single analog Zeiss projector, which worked mostly in the 1930s. Like, it was made in the 1930s, and the technology is from 1930s. So that has been upgraded to what we currently have is now 10 digital projectors. And we also have an upgraded sound system. So these 10 digital projectors can actually do a 8K resolution on the full dome. And that gives you the immersive environment which we have been looking for. So that is another upgrade. And the show contents has been changing worldwide. It's not just in Johannesburg, but worldwide people also want to see other videos other than astronomy. But majority of the shows are still astronomy, but it is possible to watch, say, an animated movie. So a child who's more than 5 years old, they can come and see an animated 360-degree movie, and the whole family can be entertained. So that is what has also changed in with this recent facility.
And just to be clear for the majority, I mean, typically one would go to a cinema and you get this beautiful cinema screen, and that's obviously straight in front of you, right? When I think of the old planetarium dome, by its very nature, it would be something up in the sky. Okay, do I take it that this time round, everything you've just mentioned in terms of astronomy and even just other animation or even about education, and I've seen the videos of the Wits University campus, all of that would be effectively looking up in the sky because of the dome factor, so you get this sphere and therefore a completely different experience to what we used to.
Yeah, I think So what we usually we do have that immersive effect in like say an IMAX movie also, but this 360-degree view kind of gives you a like I would say it's an immersive environment, and you might feel that you're actually part of the thing. So like if you're so one of the things which I like to mention is if a child or an adult wants to see what the International Space Station looks like, you can actually fly inside the International Space Station and just move through what the cabins look like, what inside the International Space Station looks like. Or if you want to go and fly to Mars and land on Mars and see what the Martian surface looks like, you can do that with this facility which we have here now. So this is something which, I don't think you can do it in a normal cinema.
So you can navigate. I mean, I can attempt as a budding astronaut to go and effectively navigate myself landing on Mars, and you have that facility to do that because that's what he will show us. So that's a massive upgrade on the IMAX you speak about, and many people may be familiar with, right?
Yes, it is. It is not exactly an IMAX. It is like we call it a 360-degree immersive environment.
Okay.
Just because of it is actually a full dome, so that's why you have 360-degree, and you belong to part of the show. You will feel when you watch a show that you are part of the show. So that's where the immersive nature also comes in.
Okay. Now, it's interesting. We speak at a time where I had a chat with Nicholas Bauer earlier about his book, Great Johannesburg, looking at ways to fix up some of the decay in Joburg, but at the same time, acknowledging some of the magic we have. I mean, I would take it that the planetarium, the old planetarium, was always part of the Joburg skyline, but we may even have a closer look at the skyline now, because do I take it that the plan really is to make this a must-visit stopover for all people in Joburg, but certainly people touring Johannesburg as well?
Yes, of course. I mean, this could be so once we start for our public shows, that will be on 1st of February 2025. So that is definitely something which we are going to advertise a lot for tourists also, because this is something I think you might be just passing by Joburg and you have half a day and you would like to come and watch a planetarium show. And yeah, that is something we are targeting for sure.
So let's talk about the production. I mean, you mentioned the Mars or landing on the Mars situation, but somebody has to produce all these things, and then it gets flighted in this 360 degree that you speak about, right? So what about that market? I mean, who would be those people?
Okay, so currently that's a very good question. So currently, what I'm talking about is already what we have. So the company we bought the projectors from, it's called RSA Cosmos. They are based in France. The software they have given us has a lot of inbuilt capabilities. So if you want to fly to the International Space Station or to Mars, or if you want to even look through what the human body looks like, so you can use it as a classroom. That also you can do in this digital dome. And so these are all inbuilt capabilities. Now, for example, if you want to make something which is maybe a story which you want to tell, say about archaeology in say Southern Africa, you are able to make a show and you can project it onto the screen. But that is why we are, in the next phase, we are going to look for multimedia developers to build their own, make their own stories, and, so that we can tell our own stories in our own language and project it onto the dome.
Okay, that sounds so exciting. Which leaves me with two things. I mean, these multimedia developers, I mean, how much will it cost them to be able to put something up? And the second part of that question is, yes, you said it's open to the public. I think February 1st. For now, there's trialing for the next few months, understandably so. But when the public attends, I mean, what sort of cost factor are we talking about here?
Yeah, so let me just come to the first question. So the cost for the shows. So the other thing which I wanted to say is what we have in our collection for now is 6 amazing astronomy shows, which was donated by American Museum of Natural History, the Hayden Planetarium. So it's based in New York. They donated 6 amazing planetarium shows for us. Each of them costs about $1 million to make. And it takes a long time to make it, because you need to render it to a full dome view, and it has to be at a very good resolution, either 4K or 8K resolution. So that is the amount of money it takes to make a show. So we also want to make our own shows. so that we can talk about our southern sky rather than the northern hemisphere sky. We can talk about our own South Africa's history and its culture through our own stories. So that's why we need to make our own stories also. So that, so that there is a huge cost in that.
Okay, and then the public here.
Yeah. So the second question that you asked is about the public shows. So the public shows, we are, as I said, we are opening on 1st of February for public shows. Public shows we are trying to keep it such that people actually want to come back with their families again and again, because we will be changing our shows. It's not the same show running throughout the year, so we will change our shows after a few months, so they can come back again. So we kept it for 70 rands for adults and 40 rands for kids. And if you come as part of a school group, it's 30 per learner you're coming from a
which
school.
For me is cheaper than a movie. I mean, that's going to the cinema, so absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, let's leave it at that. Dr. Momita Aish, the head of the Wits Anglo-American Digital Dome, and having seen what I saw yesterday live, I think I'll be paying a lot more attention to the Digital Dome at Wits University. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. It's a fascinating addition to the Johannesburg landscape, but significantly a bigger addition to South Africa's innovative landscape. That's the type of champion projects I think we absolutely must encourage. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. In this news update, more learners suffer from suspected foodborne illness and polls close in Sri Lanka. Good day to you. The Limpopo Health Department says another 11 learners from a primary school in Giyani have been taken to hospital due to suspected foodborne illness. Department spokesperson Neil Shikwambana says the learners were taken to hospital after experiencing stomach pains and vomiting.
We can indeed confirm that the number of learners from Drumeri Primary School who have been admitted at the Nkensani Hospital's casualty following the suspicion of food poisoning has increased from 39 to 50. This after 11 more learners were actually admitted after lunch hour. But we can also indicate that the reports from our medical team indicate that the conditions of the learners are stable and they are still being treated at the facility's casualty ward.
The police services confirmed that it stopped the process of providing food and water to illegal miners who are still underground in a mine shaft in Stilfontein in the northwest. One body was retrieved today, while 5 people were brought to the surface yesterday. Police spokesperson Atlanta Mate.
We have gone to great lengths to try and get these illegal miners to resurface. And one such a decision that was reached 2 days ago was to allow food and water to go down so that they can gather strength to come up. But we've sent that food and water down there. They are not resurfacing. So it seems as though they are not willing to resurface. But the message is very clear. We're not going to be blackmailed by these, and we're not going to be held ransom by these illegal miners. We are going to continue to stamp the authority of the state.
Muno Mate sought to clarify that the number of trapped illegal miners cannot be more than 4,000 as reports have indicated.
We think the number of 4,500 is far-fetched. We are not disputing that there is a lot of illegal miners down there, but the number of 4,500 is far-fetched. We do know the information that we are told is that there are hundreds.
In a bid to curb the growing number of diabetes-related deaths in Gauteng, the Provincial Health MEC, Nomantun Komararehoko, says awareness and educational programs remain a top priority for her department. The MEC held an awareness campaign in Hammanskraal, north of Pretoria, to commemorate World Diabetes Day today.
What we have realized is that quite a number of people, especially those that are over 40, that do screen for diabetes, some they have and some are on treatment already. And we want to encourage those who have not screened themselves to make sure that they go and screen themselves, because by screening, you know that you'll be able to prevent the disease, so that if it's there, it can't go further. If you don't have it, you'll maintain the way of living, because sometimes there are those types of diabetes that it has been there to you because of the type of the things that you are doing or you are eating.
The director of the Centre for Democracy and Human Rights, Adriana Navunga, says regional body SADC should send an envoy to Mozambique. Protests in the country are currently underway over last month's elections, where at least 30 people have been killed. The Heads of State Summit, which gets underway this weekend, will discuss the situation happening in Mozambique Navunga elaborates.
It's important that ahead of the Harare summit, SADC deploys an envoy to Mozambique to engage in inclusive consultations, to have a report that will reflect the situation. That report will be the basis of the discussion in Harare. It is not right to go to Harare to base the information only from what my president will say. His information being part of that problem.
Polls have closed in Sri Lanka's snap parliamentary elections as the new president seeks to consolidate his power. Anunda Dissanayake was elected president in September after an economic crisis that saw the ousting of the then president. BBC's Ishara Danasekara has more.
This parliamentary election is the first since the 2022 protest against the former government. A key slogan was "Send all 225 members of parliament home." With nearly two-thirds of the former MPs choosing not to run for re-election, including the prominent members of the Rajapaksa family, it seems this demand has been partially answered. This has opened the door for new faces. Many of the more than 8,000 candidates have campaigned on promises for a corruption-free country.
The top story of the Limpopo Health Department says another 11 learners from a primary school in Guyana have been taken to hospital due to a suspected foodborne illness. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Ngidi ruled out of Sri Lanka and Pakistan inbound tours. Uganda versus Bafana match sold out, and Springbok makes 12 changes to their side facing England. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Alexandra is queuing towards London Road. The N14 westbound has a crash reported after the R114 Diepsloot exit. The N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Rand Airport interchange, and Eskom Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, the N3 westbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and the R103 in Pietermaritzburg is queuing near Market Road. In Cape Town, the M7 Jakes Harold Drive southbound queuing towards the R300 highway. The N1 inbound is slow moving towards Yeptiyaga Avenue. The N2 inbound in Siloris Pass has roadworks reported, the left lane closed before the hairpin bend, and the M5 southbound slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Only the team that plays the best cricket on the day will enjoy the last laugh. South Africa and India are both hungry to wrap the T20 International Series on the highest possible note. What a summer without cricket! Do not miss out on the fourth and final T20 International battle between South Africa and India on Friday, 15 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000, with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, later on we have this feature called Winning, and we chat to, well, a person or a institute, a business that's absolutely top of their game. And my guest today is Dipo Phakathi, who's the founder and the CEO of Denic Cabinet. So we talk to her about her winning journey. Looking forward to that conversation around 10 to 6. Do not miss that. Feedback on some of the other issues we've spoken about, like trying to get in as many messages and calls in as possible, right? Certainly want to do that. But let's talk about Julius Malema. You know, we spoke about this earlier on. In fact, we played some of the sound bites of his conversation on the EFF podcast yesterday, and he said a range of different things, including comments about Floyd Shivambu, Gayton McKenzie, Helen Ziller, Jacob Zuma, and so on and so on, right? So we thought, let's analyze how is Julius Malema actually coming across in the media these days. With me, Dr. Levi Indo is a political analyst. Good connecting you with, as always, Dr. Indo. You are now live on the National Pulse.
Ashraf, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the listeners at home.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, I mean, our conversation is very much doing an analysis of how, as a political analyst, you observe how a political leader like Julius Malema is coming across these days. So maybe the first thing, do you detect a difference in his style, in his tone, without the content talk, just in terms of what he is now compared to what he may have been before the election?
Well, I think he appears to be still very much worried about the activities surrounding the EFF, and in particular, the departure of some of the members from the EFF. Though he appears to have accepted that certain people have left, even though he might not have expected it, he appears to be someone who feels that he could have been betrayed by some within the EFF. And then he appears to be feeling that maybe he should have known that certain people are going to leave earlier, and in particular, Floyd Shivambu. And I think it's one area that, as a politician, you would know that members would come and go. It could be very, very painful, but what should happen is that the activities of the party should continue, and this is part of the political game, that you will recruit some today and some will leave the following day.
But I mean, you know, at this point in time with the EFF, they did not do as well as they expected in the last election. We know that. Since then, you know, there's been an outflux, let's call it that, of some of their senior leaders, and we know that part, right? I suppose for the EFF, because it's not every party is like this, but perhaps more so the EFF and maybe even Jacob Zuma's MK party, so much of that party revolves around the leadership of that one person. Maybe Gayton McKenzie would be the same as well, right? Do you therefore get a sense that in trying to understand where the party is going, we need to pay greater attention to where the mind of Julius Malema is? And do you have a sense that his mind is still on top of his game, or do you get a sense that, in fact, he understandably realizes that they now have a difficult situation that they've never imagined before?
We actually, as ordinary South Africans, we appear to be expecting a lot from Julius Malema leading the EFF. And some people appear to be expecting that even though he's losing individuals from the EFF joining other political parties, he should actually be behaving in a particular manner. And unfortunately, those expectations that we have has a potential to defocus the EFF, Mr. Malema, and some of his members, because it's something that they could not have expected. And in a period like this one, where the EFF is heading towards an elective conference, the focus in the main of the EFF is to focus on the conference, focus on the cohesion of the party, and ensure that after the conference, they actually come out much stronger and stronger. And he could be doing this deliberately, that he does not want to be diverted from the focus of the conference. And I think that beyond the conference, that is when we're actually going to be able to see how strong the EFF could be, because it's a very, very important gathering of the party, which has the potential to determine the strength and the weaknesses.
Well, you see, I would liken at this point in time, I'd liken Julius Malema to the, to a football head coach where his team has lost 3 games on the trot, okay? And then you come up and you have to convince the public, in this case, like the football fan, but in this case, the public, to say, hey, no matter what, we are on the right track. So what I'm saying, based upon the conversation he had on his EFF podcast yesterday, is he convincing enough, A, to the EFF supporters, and then B, to those who are not EFF supporters, to be able to also be convinced that the EFF is the way to go, although the last results, like a football team, does not show that?
It is quite difficult for the members of the EFF to not forget the departure of some of the members. And that is why in that podcast, there is still a talk about the departure of the former deputy leader of the EFF to the MK party.
Yeah, well, and therefore I'm saying in its difficulty, is he convincing enough now to EFF supporters and the broader South African public? Or do you think he's falling short in being convincing? I think we may have just lost the connection with our guest. We'll hopefully connect with Dr. Levi Ndou ASAP. We've had these technical issues the last couple of days. My apologies for that. Let me remind you, this show is called The National Pulse. We touch on the biggest issues that moves the nation, that moves the pulse of the nation. We look at what it is, and we get a sense of what you feel. And there's no question about it at this point in time. The EFF is one of them. The feeling of the miners, definitely another big issue. The ongoing issue about businesses in townships definitely gets us thinking, as well as the issue of daily the stories we're hearing about children, buying from spaza shops and being poisoned intentionally or otherwise, whatever it is, that's the case. We seem to have a problem connecting. Let me do this in the meantime. Here's some of the thoughts that you've got.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Great show always with your team, 3 to 6 p.m. What a topic, what a conversation. This gentleman, is 100% correct. You see, this issue of media briefing before you think, it's a big problem. But anyway, let's see which is which. Who is underground? Illegal foreigners? Illegal citizens? Who are they?
Okay, let's get back now to our guest, Dr. Levi Ndou. We lost you when you just replied. And I'll ask you this last part. Is he convincing in what he's saying, Julius Malema, that is he convincing EFF supporters and those outside the EFF by his pronouncements, say, yesterday?
Well, I think the EFF could be ensuring that there is a message that has to go to the general public, and also ensuring that they have other ways and means to communicate with their constituency, which are EFF members, and indeed some of those will be going to the conference. But what appears to be very clear is that some within the EFF, and including the leader of the EFF, in a mood of grief because of the departure of some of their members. And they could be doing these two things strategically, because in the minds of many people who are in the EFF is to have a very a successful elective conference, and therefore they would therefore be able to test their strength as a political party. And my view is that if they are able to have a successful elective conference, and they come up with a strong leadership, they could be in a position to still go back onto their roots and actually make sure that the programs of the party are actually being implemented.
For now, same with the president, he made the point about that some key members of the EFF were aware of Floyd Shivambu's departure 2 weeks before, and he didn't like that. How did he come across in that?
Well, the fact of the matter is that that has happened. And normally, he would feel betrayed by those who could not tell him. But also at the same time, you wouldn't know as to whether indeed Floyd was going to leave or not leave. But the fact of the matter is that some would not prefer to tell him because they could also be seen as conniving with a person who's actually leaving the party. But it's a very...
Okay, do I still have you there? No, we've just lost Dr. Levi and Joe once again. Okay, I think we're going to leave it at that. Unfortunately, it's a huge pity. I certainly want to ask him about maybe the three things, and maybe I'll put this to you. The fact that he said that some members of the EFF knew about Floyd Shivambu's departure 2 weeks before it actually happened is something of note. The second part, he quoted Helen Zille, of all people, in an affirmation about Helen Zille quoting big business and maybe white monopoly capital, whatever that means, as seeing the EFF as a significant player. And the third part, making the point that with regards to Jacob Zuma, he also made the point that, in fact, the original suspension that he had from the ANC came from Zuma and not from Ramaphosa, something that's a complete U-turn in terms of what he said before. And the last thing coming out of that one is suggesting that if he's been stabbed in the back, that he really can't be friends with them. In any way, what do you think? How convincing has he been, particularly if you are an EFF supporter? Because you would see through a different lens compared to someone who's not an EFF supporter. So if you're an EFF supporter, are you convinced by the pronouncements of Julius Malema? And if you're not, are you convinced by his pronouncements as well? Either way, I'd love to know. This is the National Pulse.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Bafana are coming to Cape Town to play the final qualifier against South Sudan at the Cape Town Stadium on the 19th of November 2024 at 6 p.m. Come early, dress to support Bafana for a chance to win prizes. Gates open at 3 p.m. and tickets start from 60 Rand for adults with special rates available at 30 Rand for children under 12. Scholars in uniform and students with student cards at all Ticket Pro outlets. If you can't make it to the stadium, catch the game live on SABC2 at 6 p.m. or visit sabcsport.com. For more details, visit safa.net and Bafana on X and TikTok.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
There's another big issue, and I'll take your calls just now, right? And there's lots of comments. So, in fact, here's one. Good day, Ashraf. Julius Malema should not be worried about members leaving the EFF. He's still got strong leaders that are willing and able to take their place from Terence. I don't know, Terence. This is my personal opinion. How are you convinced when some senior significant members of your party are not, they move on? And how are you convinced that everything's okay? And the election results confirm that everything's not okay. And there's a new party on the block they're all going through and they're doing well. How are you convinced that you've got it right? I'd love to know. Let's talk about the goings-on with regard to the illegal miners trapped underground in Stilfontein in the northwest, right? So here's the numbers. 4,000 illegal miners. We're not talking of 40. 4,000 illegal miners remain trapped underground at this unused mine in Stilfontein. It's something that's been dominating the headlines all throughout the last few days, right? So earlier today, very sad, a body was recovered. And there's an expectation that more people will be recovered having died, so more bodies recovered, right? but the community itself is not happy with government's reluctance to help with the situation. So one of the community leaders is Tembile Botman, and he joins me on the line now. And let's get his thoughts. Tembile, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. First of all, you understand that you and representing your community, you're not happy with government's reluctance to help with the situation. I'm quoting, right? What should the government be doing?
I remember when we started this program 4 weeks back, we are the ones who went to the authorities and required that we understand the Operation Valamkot, but what happens to the people that are underground? Because the understanding is that as much as we are closing, can't you at least make them to resurface and assist them? So the expectation is that government, because it does have capacity, should assist, because the other shafts, people cannot be able to resurface themselves, like in Maka shaft. For an example, here at number 11, where we are assisting volunteering as the community members, it is 2,000 meters going down. So for those people to resurface, there must be people on the surface that throws a rope and assist them to lift themselves to the surface. So it's impossible for them to resurface. I understand everyone's like, why are they not coming out? Because they went inside by themselves. Yes, they did that, but there were operators on surface. So in the absence of those operators, it means those people are stuck underground. They are trapped.
Okay, so now you're saying you want government to assist, and that means what? To help to lift them up. What happens to them next if they're illegal miners is another conversation, right? You want that. Now, you heard the minister yesterday, the minister in the presidency, very clear to say, you know what, if anybody else wants to help them to get them out, they can do so, but we're certainly not going to do so. What do you feel about that?
It's really disappointing and irresponsible of government to say that, because the situation that we find ourselves in, it's not something that started now. Government failed from the beginning. There were mines that were given rights to mine here. And the MPRDA and DMRE as regulators, they know that those mines could have, in their closure of mines, could have closed the shaft accordingly, rehabilitated them accordingly. That was budgeted for. Now you ask yourself, why now do we behave as government like we don't know what happened, and we behave as if we don't know that there are holes that were not properly closed? So it was inhuman. The statement, it was horrible to say. I see even the spokesperson, the national spokesperson, came today and she was not well informed, because the people underground, they can't resurface themselves. And we are saying we are supporting government in Valamkot. However, we should not do the operation that will create another problem of killing people.
So let me ask you this: these people that we call them loosely Zamazamas, right? Would some of them be members, of the extended families of the communities that you speak about, or are they not community? Are they not families? And either way, what has been the relationship, let's say, between the community that you speak about on behalf of and these Zamazamas prior to what has happened to them?
The family members were with them here on site. These are the people who made us aware. And why did they come to us? We see ourselves as the people that are activists in mining, as the former hosting community. Our township is formed of the mines, and when they were closed, we know and understand our township, it's declared as a distressed township. Some of these miners did not go back to their homes. So we are here, there's no development, there's a high rate of unemployment. So therefore, this is one of how the economy of our township, it's been improved. That is the truth. Some of the community members, obviously, they are not benefiting, they are not condoning this. Like us, we are not. We want to legalize things we've been talking to DMRE to say, now that the mines left, this does not mean there's no gold. It just means that the companies that were mining, it is now expensive for them to mine. You know, to
I
make
understand.
profits.
All right, here's the last
now
thing.
government
Here's the
has
last thing.
flexibility.
All right, here's the last thing. We need to
Yes.
wrap up here. Do you get a sense, or rather, maybe not you get a sense, give us a sense what the families of the miners who are trapped underground, what do they fear most?
You see, what happened today, that was the worst. You know, yesterday we retrieved 5, and today the first attempt, and then there was a deceased. So that's the most feared thing that happened. And after that, the preparations were not okay from the authorities. We had to wait for 3 hours for the authorities to declare them. So the fear of the families is that the pace that we are rescuing with, it's slow. So even if their families are still alive, because they are not allowed to get any essential medication and food, they can die whilst we are here trying to rescue them.
Okay.
That is their most fear.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Tembile Botman. I tell you what, we need to keep in touch with you and have regular updates on the story as it develops, right? Who's a Stilfontein community leader is Tembile Botman. Here's a question to all of us, to you and I, and whoever's listening. We know the story. We know what happened. We know who's there, who's legal, who's illegal. We know all of that. But are they being left to die? Just think about that. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg Hoos.
A look now at the headlines. Former ANC Treasurer General Matthews Pauser says he initially raised concern about the party going into the GNU with the DA. The Limpopo Health Department says another 11 learners from a primary school in Guyana have been taken to hospital due to a suspected foodborne illness. And police have registered a case of inquest after the body of a suspected illegal miner was retrieved from a mine shaft in Stilfontein in the northwest. I'll be back at 6 with all the details.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N14 westbound has a crash reported after the R114 Diepsloot exit. The N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Rand Airport interchange. The N17 southbound in Soweto is closed between the N1 highway and Soweto Highway Circle due to a crime scene. The R114 southbound in Nitgedacht is queuing towards the R552 Cedar Road due to motorists diverting from a crash on the N14 highway. Santon Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. In Midrand, the N1 northbound is slow moving towards Samrand Road and the N1 northbound queuing towards Allendale Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported at Cliffdale. The M7 eastbound has a crash reported on the off-ramp to Belleville Road. The N3 westbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. Chris Hani Road westbound is slow moving at the N2 highway, and the R103 in Pietermaritzburg is queuing near Market Road. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound has a stationary vehicle at Robert Sepukwe Road. The N1 inbound is queuing at the elevated freeway. The M5 inbound slow moving towards Kuburg interchange, and the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive southbound queuing at Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
So, Tumi, Bafana, they have a must-win game, as you said earlier on. Can we just scratch that out?
Yeah, let's scratch it out because now Bafana have officially qualified for the AFCON 2025. This is because South Sudan beat Congo 3-2. So in Group K, Uganda are at the top. They've played 4 games. They've got 10 points. Bafana, 4 games, 8 points. Congo, 5 games, 4 points. And South Sudan, 5 games, 3 points. So they're going into tomorrow's game knowing that they've all but just qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations. So we can fully say that Coach Hugo Bruce is not going back to...
Well, you made the point. I did say that. They've just cancelled the tickets. Like, who needs that?
Yeah, but that they are in action tomorrow, and they are going to face Uganda in a sold-out stadium in Kampala. Now, the two nations, South Africa and Uganda, will lock horns in the second leg of that Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers tomorrow. The game's kick-off is at 3 p.m. and that is happening at the Nelson Mandela Stadium. Then, still staying with football, Nigeria, on the other hand, are on the brink of securing their place in the finals as match day 5 of the Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals takes center stage today. Nigeria is going to be in action against Benin in Abidjan today, and Ghana, on the other hand, could be eliminated by the time that they take on Angola. This is obviously with South Sudan, as South Sudan will qualify if they avoid defeat against Niger today. And obviously, I did mention that South Sudan claimed that win. Then England captain Harry Kane says that he's disappointed with the number of withdrawals from the England squad this week, suggesting that some England players have forgotten the importance of representing their country. 9 players pulled out of England's squad to face Greece today and Republic of Ireland on Monday night. However, according to interim coach Lee Carsley, he says that none of the current squad have spoken to him about the issue brought by Kane and dismissed as suggestion club versus country situation is currently brewing. Then just moving on to rugby news, Volkolo will play his test match since 2021 against England in London on Saturday in a Springbok starting 15, which shows 12 changes to the team, which defeated Scotland 32-15 last week. Only Eben Etzebeth, Oxenchair and Bongim Bonambi retained their starting jerseys from Sunday's test in a 23 side, which includes a whole new backline and 8 personnel changes in total, as Bok coach Russie Rasmus takes steps to negotiate a 6-day preparation week. In cricket, Proteas men's fast bowler Lungi Ngidi has been ruled out of the upcoming Sri Lanka and Pakistan-England tours. The 28-year-old recently underwent a medical assessment as part of this structured conditioning period. He will now begin a rehabilitation program and is expected to return to play in January. Meanwhile, Test captain Themba Bavuma is making positive progress in his recovery from a left elbow injury and will undergo a fitness test on the 18th of November to determine his availability for the 2-match test series against Sri Lanka, which starts in Durban on the 27th of January. Then just ending things off with motorsport, Greg Maffei is set to step down from his role as president and chief executive officer of Formula One owner Liberty Media at the end of the year. The 64-year-old has been pivotal in the development of F1 since U.S. company Liberty bought its commercial rights in 2017. Now, Maffei will be leaving at a key time for F1. The commercial deals that binds the teams to the sport are being renegotiated before they expire at the end of 2025. And just before I say goodbye, remember earlier on I did say
Can I ask you a question? It's a quiz question.
Okay.
Name the Bafana coach, or name how many Bafana coaches have ever qualified Bafana to 2 successive African Cup of Nations tournaments.
Must I name him?
Yes, if you know the answer.
It's Hugo Bruch.
Is he the first one?
He's literally the first ever Bafana coach to qualify for back-to-back Africa Cup of Nations.
Because in the past, they don't survive one tournament. That's the first thing. And I would think people like Clive Barker, for example, when they played at home, they don't have to qualify. And then they won. Then in '98, then I think Jomo Sono took over. So you've had this history where they don't stay around long enough to do that, right?
Yeah.
But that's an amazing bit of trivia.
A big feat for Hugo Bruch.
It just means he must forget even taking that ticket to Belgium. He can now get South African citizenship as well. I mean, that's what I think.
Listen, I think next week they're playing in Cape Town, so all South African fans, just go to Cape Town. Let's support Bafana Fan. Let's just go celebrate with them. But that's it. It's a wrap from my side.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Writer Jimmy Moyah, of course, hosts the SAFM Market Update from 6 to 7. And as a precursor to all of that, Jimmy, tell me, what's moving markets today?
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to the listeners. It seems as though National Treasury has been exceptionally busy. They've been tabling a couple of things, putting forward a couple of things for comments and suggestions, and hopefully drafting new policies. And we're going to be taking a look at some of those things. They said that they've got issues with the IPP guarantees that have been put out to date. I think the government has guaranteed around 300 billion rands worth of IPP projects, and they've got a problem with that. But more importantly, they are looking to propose a new floor price or a new taxing structure for alcohol in South Africa. And given that the festive season is coming up, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to see what those implications could potentially look like if this does go ahead as planned. We're going to obviously touch on the other Treasury announcements as well, but it seems as though they've been quite busy on that side of the world. We're also going to look at a couple of other developments in the form of the COP29 conference that's currently taking place in Azerbaijan. We're going to speak to the team at Natural Justice around some of the agenda points that are outlined there and some of the expectations for COP29 this year. It runs, of course, over this week and next week, and so we're going to get a sense of what's kind of on the agenda this week and what we could potentially be in for next week. We might follow that up next week as well with just how the conference has gone and how it has ended. Then we've got a conversation with independent analyst Tsepo Gadima around those IPP guarantees that I mentioned from National Treasury, that 300 billion rand to date. We're going to look at what the changes from Treasury's perspective mean for individuals or companies looking to get those guarantees from the state. Then we've also got a conversation with Standard Bank around the festive season. As I said, we are approaching that festive period. This month, typically, we know is the Black Friday month, where we see a lot of companies advertising Black Friday specials. Black Friday is, I believe, the 29th of November at the end of the month, so we are still about 2 weeks away from that. But we're going to look at some of the dangers around that, things you need to be thinking about and preparing for when it comes to dealing with this period, but also the Christmas period in general. And then we've got a conversation as part of our SME Thursdays with a company called Drama Dynamics. We're going to get a sense of what that small business does and how they're changing the world from their perspective. Before we get to that, the markets have had a better day than yesterday. Not the greatest day, but it is good to finally see that markets aren't just losing their minds as they have been for the last couple of days. If we look at just some of the performances, markets aren't doing much better, but we'll start with Asian markets. They would have been trading first, of course. Sydney up 1/3% in today's trade. Hong Kong down almost 2%, 1.9% down there. Shanghai down 1.7%. The Nikkei in Tokyo down 0.5%. European markets all in the green. The CAC 40 in France, 1% in the green. The DAX in Germany, 1.3%. And the FTSE in London, 0.4% in the green. Our own markets had a similar day to yesterday, except it seems as though the resources counters were trying to be the Debbie Downers of the markets, down 1.9%. Industrials coming to the party, up 0.7%, and financial stocks up 0.25%. As a result, the top 40 and the all share basically finished flat, but slightly in the green, which gives us a little bit more hope and optimism. But if we look at some of the commodities prices, those did not fare better. Palladium is down at $926 an ounce at the moment. It was north of 1,200 a couple of days ago. Platinum, $941. Brent crude, $72.91 a barrel. Still not too worried about that, especially now that the rand is not on its slippery slope towards 19 rand anymore. It seems to have had a better day today. Quick look at gold, $2,567 an ounce. Interestingly enough, the movement in gold this week, the fall in gold from Monday to today, is the largest weekly move to the downside that we've seen in probably about 4 years. So not a very good look there at the moment. But when we look at currencies, The rand against the dollar, $1 US will cost you 18 rand and 22 cents. At some point, it was closer to 18 rand and 30 cents a little earlier. One Bitcoin will cost you $88,000. It's below $92,000 highs there, and we'll see what that looks like in a second in terms of rands. The rand against the pound, 23 rand 13 cents. €1 will cost you 19 rand and 25 cents. $1 Australian, 11 rand and 79 cents. And that Bitcoin price in South African rands, if you are looking at that, has come down to 1,621,000. It was closer to 1,670,000 this time yesterday. So still holding high, still looking toward that 2 million rand mark per Bitcoin. We're going to keep an eye on that, of course, and see if we can get to that number before the end of the year. But for now, back to you, Ashraf.
Right, and before I let you go, I mean, your quick masterclass on dividend payout ratios, what does that mean?
In simple English, it is the total amount of dividend in relation to the net income that a company generates. So a company will go in, generate X amount of net income for the year, and then the payout ratio is expressed as a percentage of that dividend payout as a percentage of the income that was generated. Interestingly enough, there are slightly different metrics that are measured depending on what it is that you're looking at. So instead of something like a net income figure, if you're looking at something like a real estate investment trust, they might use a distributable income figure and not a net income figure. Those minor nuances typically affect the payout ratios and how the ratios are calculated. But in a nutshell, it is the dividend in relation to what the company made.
Okay, and now we know in relation to what they made, always is relative, isn't it? Enjoy your show. It's 10-15 minutes to go. It's relative to where we are right now. Thanks for that, Jimmy. Right, we'll get your calls after this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Bafana are fueled up to display a top-class brand of football to triumph on home soil, while the Bright Stars are going all out in their hunt for victory away from home. This is match day 6 of the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Witness the beauty of African football. South Africa versus South Sudan on Tuesday, 19 November at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4, SABC 3 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom, reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
So I've noticed someone sending me a picture of a person on Zamazam armed and saying, Ashraf, the people you are busy trying to protect are heavily armed. So who must go down and retrieve them? I think you better go and get them yourself. That's really not the plan. I mean, the plan is I'm not protecting anybody. I'm just saying to you, I'm not government. Government has got emergency services. They know how to deal with these type of issues. You just simply can't let hundreds of people die down under and then say, it's one of those things. You just can't, no matter what. On the other hand, I hear you, what you're saying around safety and security. One has to be protected. But that's when government gets involved and not me, because that's their role, not mine. I do ask the questions, and we certainly want to. And you're not turning somebody who's illegal as a minor into somebody who's legal. Let's get that right.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Great show always with your team, 3 to 6 p.m. What a topic. What a conversation. This gentleman, yeah, is 100% correct. You see, this issue of media briefing before you think, it's a big problem. But anyway, let's see which is which. Who is underground? Illegal foreigners, illegal citizens, who are they?
It's one comment, but there's a whole lot more, and many of it is around the Zamazamas.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Werner from Durban. You know, Ashraf, this piece of paper called the Constitution, and the gentleman who spoke just now that you just spoke to, are the biggest blockers of progress in this country. All along, people of South Africa have been saying, we are tired of these Zamazamas. When these people come out, you can hear all types of firearms. They would be shooting and robbing us and raping the girls. We have never had this gentleman coming out and saying anything. But today, because there's some action that's been taken up against these illegal people who are in this country, illegal and doing illegal things, is here to make noise. Nah, man, these people are,
Okay, and earlier on we had a conversation about Joburg. Remember that?
Good afternoon, Mr. A. No, Shem, I think you're mistaken. Joburg can sneeze as much as it wants. It won't affect us in Cape Town. We've got our own water. We've got our own electricity. It can sneeze as much as it wants. Not for us. It won't affect us. We've got nothing to do with Joburg. Bye.
Okay, I was in Cape Town, as you know, over the weekend, right? Okay, you sound like the mayor of Cape Town. Seriously, Felix Inumtata, go ahead. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, go ahead. Good talking to you. Thank you.
Ashraf, I think we just giving ourselves a headache here, because most of, if you compare to the people that are already in prison or illegal minors, most of those people that are already behind bars are illegal immigrants, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yes and no. I think it's. I can't tell you because I obviously don't have access to them.
I think you all as journalists should look at those things, because in prison we're going to feed those people. They're coming to mess in the country. Why can't they do that in their country? Because now it's a loose thing here. You can do as you please in South Africa, and I think that's what they are. Because if they say there's over 4,000 illegal miners in underground, that might be just that side. We don't know what is going on in the Free State, because there's mines there too. So I hear you. I mean, look, there are people who are documented who are then committing an illegal, mining, and there are people who are undocumented who are also doing the same thing. So there's a double. How many? I can't really tell you. Your point about looking after them in prisons and feeding them is an important point. Some may say the same thing applies to even South Africans who also commit a crime, who also end up in prison. And, of course, that's why they call Sun City, Sun City. I mean, just think about that. What I'm trying to say, they're coming to mess in the country, illegally, taking our minerals away from here. And if we do happen to catch them or lock them up, we're still going to feed them after they came here to mess up, because they know they're doing this illegally, and they know it's illegal. Because they can't do it in their own country.
All right, I'm going to move on only because of time. Felix, I hear you. I think you've made your point, and I hear you. And I think it's complex, and, in many ways, many people may absolutely say Felix is spot on. He's right, okay? But perhaps we'll have the conversation tomorrow, because this issue will not go away. Felix Inumtata, thank you for that. Let's wrap up the show, as we always do, with a feature we called Winning, and my guest is Dipo Pagati, right after this.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Certainly like to chat to winners. Dipo Pagati is one of them. A fascinating journey as a woman entrepreneur in the carpentry industry, and to the point that she's been involved in competitions, she's received monetary prizes, big wins, and just recently now being invited to the prestigious Africa Investment Forum event that's in Rabat in Morocco, that's coming up next month, right? So good talking to you, Dipo Pagati, the founder, CEO of Denic Cabinets. Thank you for chatting to us. You're a winner, of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So let's talk about what is it that you actually do now.
So I own a company called the Nick Cabinets. Our offering is that we design, manufacture, and install custom-made kitchen units and built-in cupboards for the residential sector. So anybody who's building or renovating a house, for the corporate sector, any office furniture, and for the retail sector, anybody who's also setting up a shop. So those are my target markets.
And clearly you've been very successful at what you do, and otherwise you would not have caught the eye of an important event in Morocco.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's been a long journey of about 5 to 6 years. I started the journey in 2019 from a passion of home renovations, and after a series of winning competitions and basically solving my own problem when I was renovating my own house and seeing, some kitchen companies come and consult with me, and I felt pretty much boxed. None of them were really appealing to me and my personality and just, getting to know me as a person before designing for me. So I think after frustration, I was encouraged, and, someone asked me, what if there's a lot more people that are as frustrated as you are? And that's where my business was born.
Okay, well, it's a fascinating one. And I think, we always talk about people having a big break, and you had a big break around My Fearless Next. Tell me about that.
Yes, so I worked for Standard Bank. I was working in the enterprise development program, the department. So I was working a lot with SMEs, particularly BE SMEs, and we would tailor-make master classes for them, whether it be operations, marketing, and basically supporting them from a training point of view. And so Standard Bank ran a competition called Your Fearless Next, What's Your Next? And it was a competition for permanent employees that have side hustles. Obviously, for the bank, it was also a way for them to get us to declare our additional income. But what appealed to most of us is that the prize was that you win 4-month paid leave to focus on your side hustle. So for 4 months at home, or basically working on your business, full salary, full benefits, but you are basically working on growing your side hustle into being a main hustle. And so my business grew in that 4 months. A lot happened. I went into manufacturing, and needless to say, by the end of my competition win, I resigned. I never went back to work.
I was going to say, that's the problem, isn't it, from a Standard Bank point of view? Forget declaring your other interests. If the side hustle becomes the main hustle, then it's goodbye to Standard Bank. And that's what happened to you.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. But it's also been a winning story for them.
Because you bank with them, right?
Okay, well, that's one. But remember, Dipuo leaves, one person gets to be employed, and also Dipuo goes and retains other jobs. I currently employ 12 staff members in my business. And so, that's something with regards to the employment, especially in the current economy and the situation in South Africa at the moment. Yeah.
So regarding the My Fearless Next competition, right, what is it at that time that you put out in your proposal that so convinced the judges at Standard Bank?
We had a series of competitions. I remember one of the competitions was to try and sell like beads, your Zulu accessories downtown. And, I always say I respect people that sell on the streets, because it's not easy to get people to part with their money, just by meeting a stranger and you trying to sell somebody something. So we had a series of such competitions that led up to a pitching competition. And so I guess my pitch was the best. The competition entrants were about 2,000. So everybody nationwide, people that working in the head office, branches, I think from 2,000, they filtered to about 10 of us. And then we went through a series of competitions leading up to a pitching competition.
Okay, so where are you now? That's fantastic, right? So where are you now with your business?
So the business has grown. When I started the business, I started as a side hustle on weekends, targeting your low-cost houses, because pretty much those houses come in a shell. And I would find customers, manufacture somewhere else during the week, and then on the weekends, find a carpenter and install the small kitchens and the wardrobes. But I mean, 5 or 6 years later now, we have grown in leaps and bounds. We currently have our manufacturing factory. Like I said, I currently employ 12 people. So we've got in-house interior designers, architects, qualified cabinet makers, and we are basically servicing the mid to high end.
And often when I speak to people who are winning, as you certainly do, I'd like to get to understand what are the characteristics that you have that has made you a winner. Can you share that with us? I mean, personal characteristics that has helped you deliver what you've done now?
So basically, I would say, it's the tenacity. And the resilience, I mean, particularly this year has been a tough year for not only for me, but for all businesses because, of the current economy, like I said. So it's been particularly tough. And, you sometimes you want to give up, but you not only think about yourself, you also think about your employees. If you give up, what are they going to do? Because remember, nobody's really employing. So it's that mixed with, the typical hard work. There's no greater, I believe there's no secret to success other than the fact that you must work as hard as possible.
Okay, quick answer from you. Who's the one other entrepreneur that you really admire?
I admire Basitsana Khumalo. Because I feel like she's a well-rounded entrepreneur. Her social work, part of community work, and also quite entrepreneurial, and her business mind. So I admire her. I think she's done well, and I look up to her a lot.
Well, I mean, now she knows, right? Well, thank you for your time. It's been great chatting to you. Continue winning because we love to talk to winners, and your winning is a win for yourself and a win for South Africa, and that win-win is exactly what we need in this country. Dipawo Phakathi, the founder, CEO of Denic Cabinet, spelled D-E-N-I-C. That's the show. That's the National Pulse. Big thank you to the team, but also big thank you to you, the audience, that certainly makes sure that our Pulse Rate races every single day from 3 to 6. We'll do it all again tomorrow. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Hose.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update.